Hello and welcome to the very 23rd episode of your favorite Stat Check podcast host's favorite Stat Check podcast. It's time for episode 23 of Take All Comers. Orks is Never Beaten, the Rose City Rampage 2025, a title as short as it is catchy, and we are back with a tournament review in the year of our Lord 2025. It is February 2nd. We are living in a world full of elves, but we will hold off on that until the near future. We're going to dwell in the past for one more episode here, talking about a GT that our brothers here have gone through before. My name is Tyler Bortel, and I am joined by
Lucas Stroller
and Nicholas Olsen Johnson.
And today we have our very wonderful special guest returning to the podcast after an illustrious performance. It's
Jon Sebert.
Welcome back to the show, John. For those of you who may remember, Mr. Sebert, he was on our Champions Cup team and was thus on our Champions Cup episode, repping the Leagues of Votann, being the rock that the team was built on. Today, not so much, as the title might imply. He is a mean green Orkin machine joining the show today, so excited to hear all about that. But before we get into any of the good stuff, what's new in the world of Warhammer and what's old, I got to check in with the boys. How we doing today, Lucas?
I'm good. Yeah, just been a really fun week. This is a weird time where I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with the amount of Warhammer that's going on. Like, we've got our local 5-man February teams. We've got the Championship Cup that I'm starting to think about. WTC's coming up. I'm on our Home Nations roster, so I'm flying to England in April for that. So I'm just a little bit overloaded in terms of the amount of 40K happening, but I'm really enjoying playing the game. So I'm in kind of a weird spot where I'm both dreading and really liking playing Warhammer. So take that as you will. But overall, doing pretty good. Orcs are obviously in a fantastic spot right now, so I'm having a lot of fun exploring different options in there and just really min-maxing my list, which is just a fun place to be. And yeah, doing well overall. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm having a good time. This GT we're about to talk about here was kind of the first one I've played in since March of last year. I played in a lot of small one-day tournaments. I guess I played in a GT that was too small and became an RTT in April, but it's basically been about 9 months since I've been to a 2-day event. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. It feels good to be back, and kind of what you're saying about our February teams, that's on the mind right now. I mean, that's all this event was, just us practicing our lists. We got a few changes maybe we'll talk about. And yeah, I can't wait for the weeks of practice leading up to it and the actual event coming up here on the third weekend of February. So how about you, John? How are you doing today?
Doing well. Yeah, coming off the tournament win, my first GT win, which felt really good. A lot of practice, watching podcasts like this to learn, and it kind of all came to culmination. And then personally, I got my book published this last week too, so it was pretty exciting to get that out on Amazon and out into the world.
Well, that's
Oh yeah, man! You want to plug that real quick? Let people know what it is that you write about and where they can find it if they're interested.
Yeah. One sec. Sorry.
Absolutely. This is great.
I didn't know this was a thing. I'm
Yeah,
very
I didn't
excited
either.
now.
This is wonderful. Yeah.
What the hell?
Surprise for
Holy
everyone.
smokes.
Yeah,
That's a
this is the proof copy, so it says "Do not resale" across it. But it's called The Seed. It's my last name, Sebert. It's a hefty book, epic fantasy. It's about I'm a nurse, so it's main character's a nurse, kind of making a deal with the devil to save patients. Yeah, a lot of magic fantasy. So check it out. You can take the time. My last name, Sebert, in Amazon, or Mythstone Saga is the name of the series. So. Thanks for letting me plug.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
we'll
go.
definitely throw a link to that in the description. Congratulations. I did not realize that was happening. That's
Yeah.
awesome for you, man. Fantastic. Sweet. Over here in Spain, things are also going super hot. Similarly, very excited about the state of Warhammer right now. I was recently last minute slotted in to the Pyra Cup team for Team USA, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks. So that has been a very rapid increase in the practice requirements the last couple months, trying to get everything figured out. Very much looking forward to that. Very much look forward to getting some really good coverage of that event on this and other platforms. I'll be playing in league with Mr. Vanilla, so So that'll be a lot of fun. I will also be at Home Nations. I'll be coaching and working pairings for that. So that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, very excited about the way things are. All of the factions that I play are really interesting and good right now. Bugs are a ton of fun. GSC is a ton of fun. I don't play Shatterstar. That's not real. But I've also been playing a lot of AdMech recently, which has been a ton of fun. Look forward to a lot more AdMech content in the future. Yeah, and the European life is it's a good time. It's worked out to get a lot of good practice hours in. And I'm really excited to be playing some in-person 40K for the first time in a while. In a couple weeks here, as the TTS grind is not without its faults. Sweet. Well, let's jump right into it then with this actual event. This here is the Rose City Rampage, right? For a little bit of context and background here, the Portland, Oregon scene on 40K has had kind of a couple of ups and downs in the last several years. Pre-COVID, there were a number of reasonable sized events that were happening. Things were getting built up. And then since the pandemic, everything kind of fell apart and we had to start over from zero. The main store that was running in the events just completely abandoned the prospect. And we've had to sort of go from square one. You've seen things like Rosehammer that have happened here in the past. We've had a lot of events at the mall. But this year really is the first major Portland event to actually get some real traction going in a singles capacity, and that's a lot due to our other buddy Jon that I'm sure we're all real excited to talk about. So it was really cool to see this event and getting kicked off, being very formal. We'll talk about the specifics a lot, but this was a real big step. So I'm excited to hear how it went for you guys. I want to kick things off with the event itself. Nic, you want to tell us a little bit about the details?
Yeah. So Rose City Rampage was a 40-person 5-round GT. It was ran on Prynex mission pack, and we were doing GW terrain layouts. Kind of like a little plug itself too. So what Tyler was saying, this event was ran by our buddy Jon Anania. He has his own company, Straight Silver Gaming, where he also makes all the terrain for the event, sells the terrain. So he kind of, saw that, there was a little bit of a decline in events in Portland itself. And he has kind of made it his own mission to provide events with quality terrain. And he's put a lot of work into it over the last year. He kind of started about this time a year ago, just printing terrain and being like, I'm going to run GTs in Portland. And I think he ran, 3, 4 last year. This one 40-person, because limited on space. I think the wait list was 10, 15 people long, sold out in 2-3 days. So, if you're in Portland, if you're in the PNW area and you are looking for high quality events with a TO who, really cares about the quality of the terrain and the quality of the event itself, Jon's putting in a lot of great work. So it's super nice. Just, having an event where I can drive 15 minutes from my house and know that it's going to be a high quality event too. So, yeah.
I will also say that Jon's terrain is available on Etsy. So if you want to get yourself a set, I know you can go look at it. I think you can look at Straight Silver Gaming. Straight Silver.
Yeah, that is correct.
So yeah, you can get yourself a set. It's really fantastic stuff. It fits what's needed from GW. It's very modular, and you can build any GW set from it. It's really fantastic to play on. And there's a lot of variety. You can get different theme tables that are all really fun, themed around all of the races in the game. So yeah, just really fantastic product, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Look for, I'll throw a link in the description to his website as well for that. Really good stuff. I'm glad to see Jon really taking everything here. So let's jump into the lists themselves. What are people actually playing at this particular event? Starting off with Mr. Troller and his take on the Orks.
Sorry, I'm still rooting around on Etsy. Hello. Yes, so I played Tactical Brigade at the Rose City Rampage. And yeah, I love this army. It's really freaking fun. For those who don't know, Tank Busters are probably my second favorite orc unit, right behind just good old fashioned orc boys. So seeing them make a return to form and in a little bit more of an elite capacity than I'm used to. I'm used to like, the 15-man tank buster squad blasting a plane to hell, which is always super fun. But these guys are, unique and fun in a different way. So I really enjoy playing them. So here's my tactical brigade list. I've got 3 shock attack and mechs because you shouldn't leave home without them. One of them is a mech captain. I've got 2 beast bosses on foot. I've got a single lone op mech, the 45-point rat. 2 squads of 10 snaggers, 2 squads of 5 storm boys. I've got 5 trucks in here. I've got 2 squads of 6 breakers to kind of jointly ride in a truck. 2 squads of 6 tank busters. I've got 10 5/5 flash kits for trash mashups, and I've got 2 squads of 10 Gretchen just for being Gretchen. Yeah, this is a nasty list. It's full of damage. It's very squishy, so it kind of has a whole time holding its own. But in terms of just like the amount of damage you can throw downfield in one turn, it can get pretty ludicrous. So yeah, I had an absolute blast playing this list, and I'm excited to talk about my games.
Totally. I know that compared to a lot of the other lists that I've seen out there playing Tactical Brigade, I feel like the Beast Snaggers has been kind of your the bell that you keep on ringing, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about them over the course of this. Talk to us a little bit about the theory behind why you think they fit in this list over something like just more breakers and busters and storm boys and whatnot. Like why does that unit fit in here?
So I think there's a couple things going on here. The first of which is there's some staples in tactical lists that you're just going to take no matter what. I think a squad of 10 flash kits and 2 squads of 6 tank busters with sags. Those are kind of like 3 units that are making in no matter what. So in my mind, that leaves you with a lot of anti-tank and some decent like anti-Terminator equivalent type dudes, like ability to kill Gravis Marines, ability to kill Terminators, kill Possessed. And what you're really missing there, especially if you go heavy in the Breaker Boys after that point, is you basically completely miss out on your ability to kill idiots. So like if you get into a GSC matchup or an AdMech matchup or into like a Tau Auxiliary Cadre matchup, and there's just like tons of rats running at you, Breaker Boys and Tank Busters actually kind of struggle to shoot those targets efficiently, at the very least. So I like Beast Snagger Boys for that reason, because they kind of feel like a joint killing role. They can kill tanks and they can kill idiots, whereas Breaker Boys, Busters, and Flash Kits really like killing tanks. Like, not so much Flash Kits, but they really like killing tanks and they like killing Terminators. So if you go all in on Breakers and Tank Busters, you're going to really regret it, in my opinion, when you run into the matchups with like a bunch of one-wound idiots. So that's kind of what I was realizing. They get a lot out of the detachment as well. They love 3 out of the 3 out of the 4 orders are really great for them. So you can kind of mix and match with 2 good orders, and they're leadership 6, so they're unlikely to fail the check. So like if you just need to go in and do max damage, you can do +1 strength reroll charge. That's fantastic. And then 1 CP once you get into combat, sustained or lethals. So as the situation dictates, they can get a lot of value that way. And the other thing I really like with them is fallback and charge, because most of the damage is tied up in that beast boss. Being able to continue to activate his devastating wounds on the charge for 1 CP is money. And then one more reason real quick. They have a lot of OC. OC is a problem that Tactical usually struggles with. So just being able to be like, I got 2 idiots left in this squad on the objective because you killed most of them. Okay, there's still OC4 and the boss is OC1. So like, I'm still beating out your Dread Knight. I'm still beating out your Predator. That kind of thing is massive.
Very nice. Sweet. Jumping on down on that, we've got Mr. Olsen Johnson here. What do we got coming out of the Nic house?
Yeah, so I'm playing the Warpbane Grey Knights list. I think we talked about last time on the show. This is a list that we were testing for a 5-man teams event because we felt like it could be pretty strong. This is pretty standard Warpbane stuff that's going around. Nothing too tricky here. We got 3 Grandmasters and Nemesis Dread Knights with hammers. I ended up going, I think, hammers, flamers, and Psy Cannons across the board. I tried the Gattlers on the Grandmaster. I know some people have been saying it's better because it's 24 inches as opposed to 18. In my experience, the AP0 is just like, I played into Orks, which I was like, this seems like the perfect matchup, 5 up, 6 up armor saves or whatever, right? I'm wounding you on 3s. Nope, they're taking 4 ups because they're in cover, and I'm not killing any. Flamer would have been so much better. So went on the Flamers. And it's also helped me just play more aggressively, which this army actually needs to do. I have a squad of 5 strikes, sticky guys, 2 squads of 5 interceptors, best infantry in this detachment because you're going to be running 3x5 Purgators, which are the indirect Psy Cannon guys, provided one of your Psychers can see them, and then 3 Nemesis Dread Knights. That's it, 12 units, very elite. nothing really tricky here. I guess some people would say the Purgators are, but like most of the really strong Warbane lists out there have already caught on to that piece of tech. So
I would say that the interesting part of this list is not so much what it does have and more about what it doesn't. In particular, that there are no, what are they called?
Purifiers?
Purifiers. Yeah, this is supposed to be the Purifier detachment, Nick. Where are all the Purifiers?
Yeah, Purifiers are just kind of bad. I don't know. Like the 1 CP reroll all wounds in the Hollow Ground, which the Purifiers carry around, is strong. Like that is the most compelling part about bringing them. But like outside of that, it's still 15 attacks at 622 with some anti-infantry shots. They're 125 points. Every like infantry unit in Grey Knights is either 120, 125, or 130. So this is 2,000 points on the nose. You can run 36 sight cannon shots at 812 with indirect. That seems pretty good to me. You know, that seems a lot better than some more melee guys. At least, especially into a team's environment, right? Where that's like what this list is kind of built around. Maybe the indirect might be a little worse in singles, where like you're getting rushed and these guys can't fight in melee, and the Purifier, like maybe one squad of Purifiers might be better in singles. But like it was funny. We had another friend playing at the same event, and he brought like a big 10-man brick of Purifiers, and I'm like, I don't think that's that great, man. And he came up to me like after every game, and he's like, man, I hate the Purifiers, dude. They're doing absolutely nothing. So yeah, just kind of classic 40k, honestly, that they write a detachment built around a unit, and then people instantly figure out, don't need that unit. Let's play these other things instead. So.
Very nice. All right, sweet. And then we got to bring it around to the big victor of the weekend. Mr. Sebert, tell us about your very different take on Orks.
Yeah, this is a Warhorde, so I got the sus 1 on all melee. I just really leaned into that Gaz being the focal points. It's just a matter of on the water, it doesn't matter what he hits. If he hits something good, that's great. It's just to get him in mid-board so Makari's aura hits as much of the board as possible is really the key. So you got sus 1 and lethal on everything. Most of it's hitting on 2s, so really reliable damage. I got the War Boss. He's leading the Breaka Boys. I've liked this unit as another Gaz alternative in terms of like needing to crack a hard target in melee. It gives me that second option, which is really nice, especially since Gaz is so slow and he's on foot. 2 Beast Bosses with the Beast Nagas, as Lukas said, they're just money. 175 points for a unit that does it all, it feels like. The Sag Mech, he goes with the Tank Bustas. That was probably my last addition to this list. I've been playing this over about 6 months and just slowly iterating. And having that one anti-tank range just forces my opponent to be a little bit more cautious of the shooting lanes, and it's opened up a lot more for me. I can be more aggressive with my other units. I don't know if they actually killed anything like significant over the weekend, but the mental, tax it has on your opponent really paid off. Let's see, Zodgrod is my personal taste unit. Every single Orc list I build, I throw Zodgrod with 20 grots in. This guy has flipped so many objectives and held down home objectives so many times that I'm addicted to him. 3 trucks and a battle wagon for getting stuff across the board. 1 big squad of flash gits for some anti-infantry DACA, and the Mega Knobs to escort guys. I do think paying for the extra Mega Knob, you can go 2 for 70 points or 3 for 105. Paying for the extra one gives guys so much more durability on the Wa turn. Like your opponent just has to commit more to him. It makes that -1 to wound on that unit even nastier because you got to chew through the feel no pains too. And then 3x5 Storm Boys just for objective screening, the usual stuff.
Very cool. And I think the question on everyone's mind here is going to be about your attachment choice here, sticking with the Warhorde and not jumping ship to the brand new hotness. Is that at a matter of sticking with what you know, or do you feel like there's more play to this detachment than people are giving it credit for?
Man, I think Warhorde's in a great spot. It's just such a solid Orc like detachment. It wants to go for it. It wants to hit really hard. It definitely has a win objective of just KOing your opponent in a single big Wa turn, which I had happen a couple times at the tournament. The strat suite, the fight on death, honestly, like the -1 to wound's great. I definitely use that, hit that button a lot, but into the melee matchups, which of this weekend I had a couple, having that 2 CP fight on death, like flipped fights. You can, if I got 4 CP going into that round, I can interrupt one place, fight on death another, and then suddenly, I've activated 2 whole units that wouldn't have been able to before. which is a lot of damage in this. So I think Warhoard's great. I'm curious about tactical. I'm actually painting up my last few models. I'm definitely going to put it on the table because I think it's good. But for me, it's yeah, damn right, Lucas. For me, just Warhoard. I think it was also a comfort pick. Like I just rather than switching things up. You guys mentioned the teams tournament coming up at the end of February. Just kind of keeping the reps going. Get as much exposure. I learned at Champions Cup, knowing your matrix and being able to matrix accurately is such a key point for teams. So just getting reps.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, let's jump right into it then. For our first round here, we are playing Scorched Earth, Search and Destroy, Swift Action. So that's battle line are able to advance and act. On layout 3, and I don't think we have pictures here for much of this. Does layout 3 have a particular anything weird about that on Search and Destroy, or is that pretty comfortable for it?
It's pretty comfortable. It's the one with the like staggered small piece and medium-sized piece right in the middle.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's like enough space to hide. It's a little weird because Search and Destroy, you start so close to people, and there's a lot of staging right at that middle. So if you're playing a very aggressive infantry army, you can beeline through that piece of terrain. But other than that, not really anything crazy.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Seems like a very neutral mission to start off with. I don't know. I haven't looked through to see what all the missions are, but I think Jon went for a very middle of the road, mild mannered pack here. Not trying to like some other TOs go for wacky stuff to get people confused.
Yeah.
And we're starting off here with Lukas going into Librarius Conclave. This is one of the Space Marine detachments that I feel like early on did not get a ton of attention because it's not very flashy, but it seems to be holding out as a very strong contender. So this should be a good test for you up first. No one here plays Marines, and I'm itching, so I will read this off. We got Tiggy, we got a Phobos Librarian, we've got a Lone Up Lieutenant, we've got Gilliman, of course, for that new double oath with the +1 to wound. Squad of 5 Intercessors, 3 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, squad of 5 Incursors, 10 Reavers. Oh man, I am excited to hear if this unit was able to make it happen. Single Repulsor, 10 Stern Guard, and 2 Vindicators. So this individual is all in on some of this new stuff, some of these changes, and I'm curious to hear if they were able to make some of them really sing. How'd it go, Lucas?
Yeah, this was a really fun game against Warwick. He's one of the local guys who have never played before, despite the fact that we're on like million, been to a million tournaments.
You've never
together.
played Warwick?
I've never played Warwick.
That's crazy, man. Love this gentleman. One of the best.
This was cool. He's fantastic, man. Yeah, Librarius is fun. I'll talk about kind of some reflections on it after the game. Basically, if we go to the scorecard page, this was a game that I just for the most part outscored both on primary and secondary. Neither one was like too significant of a blow up, but between the two of them, it was a pretty comfortable victory. Space Marines just can't handle the amount of stuff that Orks have. And this is why I feel like tactical and other attachments as well, but tactical in particular, just kind of needs to lean into the scoring aspect and run lots of trash. Is that allows you to like just really jam the foot on your opponent's throat in terms of like I have a points advantage. Orks have some of the best cheap trash in the game, and I really came to a 4 in this one. So for example, you can see like just the line of secondaries I have there, right? Like I scored a clean 40, scoring like max points every single turn. Whereas as soon as you start fighting with an elite army like Space Marines or Knights or Necrons or something like that, they really just run out of the ability to activate their units to get secondary points. Like if they just draw, action secondaries on turn 2 or 3 when the fighting has started, they're basically zeroed for that turn. And it's not like the Ork units are, each one is individually very squishy, but like getting something like no prisoners or overwhelming force for the opponent is also kind of tricky as well, because maybe you can't prioritize those units in that particular turn. But anyway, this was just like the slow grind of a game where I slowly just kind of rolled toward his home objective and smothered him. And he held on to the home objective all throughout and kept scoring some points, but it just was not enough to overcome the points factor that the Orks have going on. Only missed 5 points of primary, and from there it was just kind of a lights out. It was pretty fun. We had some interesting moments, like the Reavers were actually heroes in this game. For those who haven't seen them, they have 2 really, really sick auras. At least I think they're both auras. One of them is like, well, they were in the 3 inches, your OC is lowered by 1, no minimum. So you can just go to OC 0. And then at the start of the fight phase, every enemy unit within engage range takes a battle shock, and that'll be at the -1 because of the first ability. So you can really just like flip points because of that timing. So for instance, I charge into this unit with a unit of Snaggas and a unit of Tank Busters, and he just went, all right, take 2 battle shocks at -1. I failed both of them. All of a sudden, his unit's on the objective with OC, and going into his turn, all my guys are OC 0, so he held the objective. I also couldn't use any strats on those Snaggas, and I lost both of my orders. So, yeah, honestly, pretty damn cool. They impressed me quite a lot, and with the Lone Op Lieutenant, they're like, they're stealthy natively. There's 10 of them, and with Gilliman nearby, they can really just like spam AOC to help stay alive. I liked it. I thought it was a cool unit. But, Vindicators and Ballistas and stuff just don't get a lot of support out of Librarius, so they're just a little bit cumbersome to bring to bear. And this is the thing that I dislike the most about Librarius is like you're fundamentally trying to make poor data sheets work. Like I don't think any of the Space Marine librarians are really that good, right? Like just on their own. So you're kind of jumping through hoops to squeeze some value out of something that, Gladius just has, right? Like you can run the same data sheets in Gladius, but they get way more support. So that's my major gripe with Librarius. But still a cool game and great to play Warwick and had a fun time.
Glad to hear it. Sounds like a good one. Pivoting over here to Mr. Nicholas going up against Death Guard. Lucas, that's one of your armies. You want to break down this Death Guard list? What do you think of it?
Yeah, so this looks like a pretty well-rounded Death Guard list. We got 1 Putrefier Blightspawn combination. They're going to join 10 Plague Marines and a Rhino. We've got a Lord of Contagion with Shamble Rot. I think that's -2 to charge. We've got a Plaguecaster, Morty, a Tallyman, and Typhus, so just the full suite of one of each character. 10 and 5 Plague Marines, as mentioned, 1 Rhino for the 10-man, 6 Death Shroud to join to the Lord of Contagion or Typhus as needed. We've got 2 Flesh Mower Drones, 2 Blight Haulers, 1 PBC, a squad of 20, and a squad of 10 zombies. So just a nice mix of stuff. I'd imagine that Typhus probably goes with that 20-man zombie, while the Death Shroud joined the Lord of Contagion.
That was correct. Yeah. Yeah. So this game was a good one to start with because this kind of was just felt like a very strong matchup for Warpbane. And it kind of let me test to see how aggressively I could play. So a lot of these vehicles, like all the drones and the Blight Haulers walking around, are all like T9, T10. So pretty easy to pick up with Psy Cannons. Death Shroud, 3 wounds. Hate to be 3 wounds when you're shooting a Psy Cannon. I'm just checking real quick how much these guys actually are. Whatever. Plague Marines as well. Also famously don't love getting shot by Grey Knight weapons. So to me, this game kind of felt like teleport around, hitting his flanks. I'm sure he's going to probably throw Morty and Typhus in the middle. We'll let those guys, march across the middle of the board and then come deal with them once we've dealt with some of his. Because what I'm a little bit scared of is the Blight Haulers can kill NDKs. Plague Marines, if they touch me, can kill NDKs. Death Shroud, same thing. Morty, hit or miss, dude. That guy's got 5 attacks. Is he going to hit everything? Am I going to make my invulns, right? And he needs 4 to go through to kill me. He'll probably chip a wound off, but he needs 3 failed saves to go through to kill me. So that is pretty much how this game went. I ended up getting to go second, which as a drop shoot army is fantastic. So he made the first moves. I relocated my army up to the upper left. So because he was kind of trying to stage some stuff to assault my expansion. My guys managed to pop off way more than I thought. I think the Psy Cannons ended up picking up one of his drones, both of his haulers with 3 NDKs and a squad of Purgs. And after that, I relocated to the other side of the board and started picking away at the Rhino and the Plague Marines. And then everything on the sides was dead. And my NDKs started charging Morty in the middle. And that was pretty much it. We had one epic combat where I shot Morty down to 5 health. And then I charged him with 3 NDKs or 2 NDKs and did 0 damage. And then he hit me back and did 0 damage. And then Morty, he used the heal strat and healed to 6. And then I punched him in ongoing combat and punched him down to 1. And then he finally managed to kill an NDK. And then I killed Morty, and that was pretty much it after that. But yeah, it was a great first game. I think this was against, if we can send it on over to the next slide. This was against Bridger, who is actually a college student at Reed, Tyler. I know that's where you went. So this is kind of the new arc. This is the new him and his buddy have been coming to events for like the past year. So they're pretty up and coming. So yeah. Unfortunately for Bridger, right? This was kind of just like one of the perfect matchups for Warpbane, and I got to go second. So as you can see here, I got great primary. Like I managed to also get like, I managed to get on his home field and burn it because I just like, killed everything in front of me. And I also got great secondaries the entire game. So I managed to max out my secondaries. So yeah.
Nicely done. Sounds pretty brutal. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add on that. Cool. And John over here, is getting to play into some new, Demonic Incursion. This is Index Demons. Okay. So some new old demons. Lucas, you want to walk us through what the Beasts of Chaos have showed up with?
Yeah, so this is Chris Pina's list. He's got Demonic Incursion, so Index Detachment. He's got a Great Inclinon with the 4 Feel No Pain Relic. He's got a box standard Keeper, Shalaxi Hellbane. We got the Mask of Slaanesh, 2 squads of 3 Nurglings, 2 squads of 10 Plague Bears, 2 squads of 3 Fiends, 2 squads of 3 Screamers. You'll notice a pattern. Man likes the number 2. 5 Seekers and a Slaanesh Soulgrinder. So kind of just a combined arms Nurgle and Slaanesh list. How'd this go?
It was really Chris's was a ton of fun to play. Excuse me. I got to go second on this one, which was key. I think it let me kind of react to him staging. It was a late Wa. I do remember it was like a turn 3 Wa because basically Shalaxi was sitting behind that little offset rune on his side, and Gaz was standing behind that little offset rune on my side, and just both were like waiting for the other one to come out. Most of it was just kind of trading early, and then on my Wa turn on turn 3, I juiced Zodgrod with the +2 advance, +2 charge strat who was sitting on my expansion, and he launches basically across the entire board, charges a unit that's sitting in some ruins, and then swings onto his home objective to take it and tag Shalaxi in the process and just locks her into place. So she's slaughtering Grots for a turn. Gaz gets to come out and do his thing and doesn't get any punch back in the face. So I was very focused on Shalaxi this game and just making sure I won the trade game. But yeah, again, Zodgrod, man, I got to keep saying in this detachment, he's insane.
Yeah, man, I believe it.
Chris was so fun to play.
Shalaxi is really a defining factor if she shows up in a list because she's like 400 and something points. Absolutely insane, but the output is there. The big change here with Demonic Incursion is that they get their 6-inch charges out of Deep Strike now without having to use the Shadow. Did that end up being super impactful here, or do you have just plenty of units to screen everything?
I was able to screen quite a bit. There was like a pocket on near his natural expansion where he did bring down the Soul Grinder, popped down, shot it, and it charged into my truck. He left it on one wound, or not truck, battle wagon. He left it on one wound, and so that was kind of a bummer for him. That Guo took forever to kill. Like my tank buses just kept shooting it because it was like the only big thing that he presented. And, he was laughing, moving forward up the board. But yeah, just that one little interaction.
Yeah, very nice.
And then, yeah, you can see where Zodgrod basically gets on his home objective there with the end of the game.
Yeah, bring it down, Assassinator on turn 1 for demons into orcs. Yikes, dude! I could have been a lot of points if it was on turn 3. Holy shit!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was definitely at the end of round 1. I was like, okay, I'm gonna need some points here.
Yeah,
Very
this
nice.
matchup
Great.
seems very tough for the demons because you get like to always initiate because they can't crack trucks and shooting outside of I guess like some random piddly shooting here and there. Like sure, Soul Grinders can, but
yeah, I was able to use my trucks to kind of screen the charge lanes for the big monsters.
Very nice. All right. So a clean round 1 for the crew. We'll head on into round 2. Purge the foe, Crucible of Battle, adapt or die. What is that one?
Oh, let me tell you, dude. Adapt or die, pretty cool mission rule. So adapt or die is when you get twice per battle, when you draw a secondary, you can use the mission rule. You draw a second secondary, and then you choose whether to shuffle one of those 2 secondaries back into the deck. You have to shuffle one of them back in.
It's
like
a
kind
choice?
of a free. Yeah.
I thought it was an auto recycle.
You should read the rule, dude.
Impossible.
So yeah, it's basically a free cycle, but it's kind of weird because you have to do it immediately after drawing one, and then you cycle in the one you just drew or the one you triggered off of. So like basically, if you draw one card and you go, I like this card, that's locked in. You draw your second card, you go, I don't like this. I'm going to use Adapter Die. You draw a third card and go, wow, this one sucks even more. You can shuffle that one back in, and then you can also still use the CP New Order stratagem. So it's interesting. It's an interesting mission roll. I know Jon's been trying to not just play GW missions, but he's also not trying to create wacky super unbalanced missions as well. So he's been like kind of curating a few missions for a while that like have gotten good feedback, and I think this is one of them. So yeah,
cool. Yeah, I'm intrigued by that, especially because it also changes the timing that you get an immediate cycle instead of an end of the command phase cycle. That creates some interesting dynamics. Very cool. All right. So that is our mission today. I am a Purge the Foe hater. I will be until the day I die. But if you're going to do it, doing it in round 2 seems pretty reasonable to me. And oh man, snap! It was already time. I didn't realize it was time. Where's my button? Where's my button? There it is. Oh man, it's mirror match time. There we go. Found the button. Very exciting. We got Lukas and Jon squaring off in the second round on Purge the Foe. You've already heard about their lists. Lukas, do you want to kick us off with how this game shook out?
Yeah. So this was
you two can banter about it and yell at each other, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. We'll do it. I haven't played the Orcs Mirror in probably, I don't know, years. I don't know. It's always fun. It's just piles of stuff everywhere, and our two lists are
you
quite.
You played it with the Bully Boys Green Tide a ton, right?
Not at an event. Oh no,
I did play Alex, right? Yeah,
I did play Alex. Yeah, that was an Orcs Mirror. Okay, it's been 8 months then. Hilarious. But yeah, I mean, our lists are kind of like sort of inverses of each other, right? Like I've got very heavy shooting with some decent combat, and you've got very heavy combat with decent shooting. So we're kind of just like a little bit of a flip of each other. That Zodgrod unit's going to be really annoying. So I'm curious to see how this goes. It's going to be really fun. I think both of us are crossing our fingers to go second. Yeah, because Purge the Foe is funny. But yeah, here we are. So yeah, how did this shake out? Basically, the way I deployed was I wanted to, be able to leverage my shooting as much as possible. So I didn't want to get kind of like cross-court truck taken out before anything started off if I went second. So I kind of deployed as aggressively as I could while still being hidden, but with the ability to lurch out and like cover some angles with firing deck in case you like threw something small onto an objective early on. And yeah, what was your thoughts for deployment, Jon?
Similar. I knew those tank busters were going to be nasty. The mech captain unit was the one that I was really focused on where you put, and I think where you put it and how you used it was really smart in this game. I mean, that unit took out like 500 points in my army by itself or something crazy like that. But basically just want to make sure I wasn't getting shot too hard, but wanted to be able to counter because I've only done Warhorde into Bully Boys, and I knew that was just like you smash in the middle and then it's this for the next 2 rounds. This I didn't know what to expect with this matchup in that regard, other than I was going to get shot in the face a lot.
Yeah, that mech captain unit I decided to position kind of behind my expansion. I think I stand by this play. It was nice to just kind of like continue to hold more pressure, especially the way this one shook out was I went first. Yeah. So being able to like throw cheap stuff on the middle to demand an answer while threatening your expansion with tank busters, and then the mech captain unit just sat behind my expansion like anything you put over here is going to get instantly one tapped.
Yep,
was pretty brutal. And I devoted a lot of resources to keeping them alive. So it was definitely material intensive, but I think it was worth it because they easily made their points back like 2 or 3 fold.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah. And your the 2 flashgate units that you had ended up being like really key for little 80-point units. They shot something, and then the one unit like stood and kind of blocked off my wah turn a little bit. I really had to do some tricky movement. I really liked how you used those 2 screening units, and big bases too. Like they take up a lot of space.
They take up a lot of space. I mean, there's you paid for it, right? Like upgrading a Burna unit to a unit of flash kits costs 20 points. But this is the kind of matchup in like Tyranids and GSC as well, where they just make their points back because they're not only good at killing idiots with their guns and combat, but they also carry their own grenades. And with the once per game lethal hits, you can really like, okay, there's an idiot tank over here that I really need to kill, and all I've got is 5 flash kits, 3 mortal wounds from the grenade, probably 2 wounds go through from the lethal shooting. All of a sudden, your tank's down to 3 wounds, and then I charge into combat.
Yep.
So it increases the amount of things you can do with that trash scoring unit immensely. And if they just spend the game screening or doing an action, fine with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very happy to have him here. So yeah, we can go to the next slide here and see how this one shook out. Ended up being a razor tight game where we both got 44 points on primary. Interestingly, I started getting kill more toward the end of the game there.
Yeah.
And I think that's because Warhorde, it's traditional kind of stereotype of it. It has the ridiculous gas turn of the Wa, and then it kind of runs out of steam thereafter. So I think you got a lot of primary there on turn 2 and 3 when you Wa'd at the bottom of 2.
Mm-hmm.
But from that point onward, I was steadily accumulating Killmores. But you were also getting some Holdmores and scoring good secondaries, so it kind of came out in the wash. And then the game really came down to like just a couple of sketchy interactions at the very end of the game there. Yeah, all those like tiny little interactions there. That turn 4, man, where I drew Bring It Down Overforce, and I was just looking at the slew of points in front of me, thrown out of ability to kill any of them. Was really scary. Actually, that 2 on Bring It Down, I scored in Overwatch, not actually during my turn.
That's right. That was that truck I tried to move up to contest your expansion, and then your mech brick was like, no.
Yeah, that unit. Oh my god! It was walk out on turn top of 3, mow down a beast snagger unit, bottom of 3, kill a truck on Overwatch. Turn 4, walk up, annihilate a like tank buster unit or something, kill another truck on Overwatch, and then the final turn they just continue to walk up and shot Gaz in the face.
Yeah, they finally got
continued turns of value. I love killing trucks in Overwatch. That shit is funny. So
it's so painful.
Yeah, it's very painful. But yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Crazy game, man. Crazy game, and had a lot of fun. Got to kind of see each detachment shine with what it's good at, right? Like the flash gets put in their work. You kind of like milked maximum value out of like each of those small units being super threatening. I was really impressed with like the Storm Boys going in and punching up on the wall turn and like killing most of a tank buster unit.
Yeah.
You had some cool plays to like slingshot charges in to dodge my screening, move blocking, which was really great. It was cool to see that. Just a fun game overall. Had a blast.
Yeah. I mean, it came down to the final dice roll. Like, and I needed a re-roll. Like, it was my beast snag a boss going into a truck, and I needed to kill 1. I just needed to kill 1 thing on my final turn. So it was, I mean, as close as you can get, I think, in this game.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a blast, man.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Overall, I still think this is honestly probably a good matchup for tactical.
I do.
Just because like your stuff is so squishy other than on the 1 turn. So like every unit in my army is mega threatening, and just, classic Warhammer shooting is more powerful than melee. So it's easier to just like leverage my shooting pieces. But Warhorde still has its tricks. The Zodgrod unit in particular was really great just for running in and making one thing a non-issue, right? Like it got to just wrap a truck and keep something there for a turn.
Yeah.
On your go turn, which was a huge tempo advantage. And that's also a nice like low commitment thing to put on your expansion early on if you're not playing Verge the Foe, just to help get some primary. So yeah. Really love that unit. Honestly, you had me immediately thinking about how I want to get it into my list after this event.
I'm telling you, do it. It's so
good.
fun. 160 points is worth it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, man. Very cool. Alrighty, so team inkill out of the way, but a great 8 effort by both of y'all. Purge the Foe being what it is. Let's head on down. Ooh, it's time to play against Tyranids. I'm excited. Nick is going up against an invasion fleet list here, and a little bit of an interesting one here. We got a pair of Broodlords. We got a Walker with adaptive biology for the Feel No Pain. Squad of 10 Gargoyles, 2 squads of 10 Hormagaunts, a Biovore, 3 Exocrines, 2 squads of 10 Gene Stealers to join that Broodlord, 3 Lictors, a Pyrovore, and 2 T-Fexes with Rupture Cannons. Interesting take on bugs here. You see more and more of these Gene Stealers working their way into Invasion Fleet because with sustained hits, they just like get a lot of damage done into infantry. especially with the access to the dev wounds from the Broodlord there. They're not nearly as fast as they are in Vanguard, and they don't have quite the tricks, but they're still just a like on paper stats good unit. And with the 5-up Feel No Pain and the 5-up Invuln, they can be kind of surprisingly tricky to work through. I'm a little bit concerned about how, like, I don't know, this list is just very full of very big targets for Nick to just absolutely dump into. So I worry that might be a bit of a problem for him, but the Lictors will hopefully provide enough nonsense. No Neuro Lictors and no Neuro Tyrant. Crazy to me if you're playing Invasion Fleet, but I understand that it's kind of the direction that people seem to be moving in, so I won't get too hung up on it. How'd this game go, Nick?
Yeah, this game was super fun. This was against, I think, our guy Brennan down from Salem. I don't know if you've ever met him. He definitely mentioned something about like, man, I wish Tyler was here to ask a question about NIDS. So you got some fans out there, dude. He also loved Gene Stealers. Pretty sure his list name was Billy Gene Stealer is not your lover or not my lover, which was great. Yeah. So this one was a little tough because we both were like, it's Purge. NIDS are famously not that great on Purge. We both really want to go second, and I'm playing Grey Knights, so I really want to go second. And the thing too is we're playing on GW terrain. So that is where there are these like big wide open shooting lanes usually, right? If you walk out from your DZ ruin. That makes the Exocrines and these Rupture Fexes very scary because they have Assault nearby that Walkrent. And Exocrines are fantastic at killing Dread Knights. They're wounding you on 3s. They're doing D6 plus 3 shots. They're hitting very efficiently, and they're 3 damage each. Rupture Fexes, I have to respect them. They are a bit of a casino cannon, right? They hit on 3s, they wound on 2s. They like one-shot me if it goes through, but it's 4 Benvolns, right? So, yeah. But I can't just like play full disrespect. This guy has enough firepower. So I stage somewhat aggressively in case I get to go.
Quick question, Nick. I am curious. Does he take sustained or lethals against you in this matchup?
He ended up taking lethals because like he figured out that like what the most things I was going to be like playing, the things that were going to be most threatening to him were the Dread Knights. Like if he's getting to my Purgs, something has gone horribly wrong for me because they are hiding in my backfield most of the time. And he didn't really care about like, you know, okay, I'd like to kill your like 3 trash units that are going to run at me. So I think that was okay. Like it means like his like little guys get to punch up if they ever do come into a Dread Knight. Like it actually does make the Gene Stealers kind of scary at punching Dread Knights. So yeah. This game I did stage kind of aggressively because at least I was like I could like with some advances go into the midfield so that he can't like advance out and shoot me. Like if I'm forced to go first here. I ended up going second, so yippee. He comes at me, stages Gene Stealers behind walls. I throw interceptors forward. I get behind the walls to see guys. I also, get to uppy downy. And this is where I'm like, okay, I can't just like put my guys in the middle of the board and hope to win a shooting duel here because my guys aren't that great at shooting him to death because strength 10 versus T10. Like I am just wounding on 4s. And also the terrain effects is I'm wounding on 5s, right? Yes, anything that goes through is pretty good. It's 5-up saves on Exocrines. So what I did is I kind of relocate over to the top of the board so that my 3 NDKs can shoot down into some Exocrines, or into I think 1 Exocrine and like 1 terrain effects. But basically he kind of had split his forces up a bit. So I was like, if you come around to try to kill these NDKs, you're only going to be able to like bring 3 guns to bear into them instead of all 5 of your guns. And also hopefully if things go well this turn, I've killed 1 to 2 of those guns. And that way also these NDKs are giving me sight lines into these Gene Stealers behind the wall for my Purgs to shoot at. So we kind of just play the patient game of like chipping away. This matchup is so swingy though with our shooting. I think I passed this Exocrine like it's basically it felt like we were doing damage in instances of 9 to each other the entire time. Like I was like, Exocrine, take 3 saves. And he's like, I failed all 3. I'm like, take 9. And he does the same to me. Or I'm like, Exocrine, take 3 saves. He's like, I passed all 3. Okay, take 0. Yeah, it was so stressful for both of us because of that. Also kind of a weird matchup where his like bodies, like his Cormagants and Gargs don't really matter that much because in a normal game, right, we're playing like Take and Hold or something like that, or like Linchpin, him denying my expansion points every turn is really good. because he's knocking me off of like a 10 or, an 8 or whatever, right? But in Purge, okay, cool. I'm knocking you off of Hold More, but there's absolutely no way I'm threatening Hold More in the early stages of the game against Tyranids. So it doesn't really matter that he comes to my expansion, but like all my stuff is hiding back there, chipping away at him, And so I kind of basically pull him back and forth for a few times. And then he's like, all right, I need to get to these pergs on your DZ and also maybe deny your hold 1. So he has a pretty good turn where he lines up some shots. The Exocrines get the right side of the coin flip. He ends up picking up like 3 NDKs instead of 2. And I'm like, ooh, uh-oh. And he flings his Walkrent right like into the midfield and then consolidates like close to my DZ. And he's like, all right, if you don't kill this Walkrent right now, this guy's launching into your DZ and killing those pergs back there. And I'm like, okay, so I relocate defensively. I managed to clear out the midfield just barely. And after that, he just kind of has like a few bugs left on his expansion. And I managed to like sweep through. But it was a pretty close game there. That turn 3, turn 4 was pretty sketchy, dude. And it was like cool on him to like recognize that he's like, I need to like, this is my moment where like my shooting popped off a little more. I need to like give him a problem that he has to answer right now. So yeah. I think it ends up being a 13-7 for me, whatever that is. In terms of points, 92-74. Yeah. The thing is, it's kind of like I get to go second, right? So it's really easy for me to pick up Gilmore. I'm also like hiding early game, so it's really hard for him to get Gilmore. So yeah.
Does he end up?
Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
No, go ahead. Does he end up ingressing one of those Steeler squads? I feel like one of the things I found about Grey Knights is that with so few units, an ingressing melee unit can be a real problem.
He did not.
Okay.
So yeah, I think he was just kind of like when he came to the board, he was just like, "Ah, man, I don't want to play this matchup. I don't want to go first." He's like, "I'm just gonna put everything on the board and hope it works out." But yeah, I think we both learned a lot that game, which was cool. We were both like kind of solving the matchup at the same time, which felt really fun.
When your primary disadvantage is that the Grey Knights are way faster than you, I feel like you're just jamming as much in strat reserve as possible. Like I do 10 Steelers with a Broodlord to ingress, double Exocrine. Because like your lost condition is he alphas you're shooting on one flank and then relocates the other and hits that. Like you need to be able to relocate your Exocrines fast. So
admittedly, they're not crazy slow because at least they have the assault. But yeah, definitely. But also, like, I want my Hormigons in reserve. I want to be because if I need to make you stretch the table as hard as I possibly can.
He did put Gene Stealers in this guy.
He did. Okay.
Gargoyles.
Oh yeah, sure, Gargoyles.
That's
for sure.
And I watched out for the play you love to do with the ingress them in behind somewhere safe and then sprint out, fire and fade, steal your home field. He kept measuring that ingress, and I was like, yeah, dude, I'm like against Tyler, dude. You're not gonna get that.
One step ahead of you, bitch.
Yeah. He's like, damn it, I can't flip your home field. He's like, you know what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So I do remember that.
Yeah, I will say, obviously not so much on Purge the Foe, but in general against Grey Knights, that secret mission can be really devastating. If they use their strikes early to go get some stickies or something, you can pick them up, and suddenly they're all out of battle line, right? This is not an army that Overwatch is to kill 10 gargoyles comfortably. So as a NIDS player, that's automatic points.
No void dragons in this army, dude.
Anyway, awesome. I'm glad y'all had a good game. And Brennan, if you're out there, shoot me a message or something. I'll have to talk some more bugs.
Yeah, Brennan ended up playing really well. I think he ended up going 4-1 at this event. So I was his one loss. Maybe you'll give me next time, Brennan. We'll see you there.
Yeah, this matchup is just like all like 4 minds and patience, but looks like a lot of fun. So we'll click it on over. Moving on into round 3, undefeated minus mirror matches. So feeling pretty good here, and it is time for a little bit of wackiness. But I know this is kind of an Anania special here, with trying to make Burden of Trust a functional mission. Doing it on Tipping Point, and his secret sauce here is that he plays Burden of Trust with hidden supplies on layout 1 here. So midfield primary a lot more accessible than otherwise, which might make the mission a bit more palatable. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that before we jump into the actual games themselves. Do you think this is a salvageable primary here with this setup?
No.
Okay, just
Anyways,
because you
go
got
ahead.
the bad split one time doesn't
No,
mean the answer is no.
I have more comments, but go ahead.
I think it is like the more objectives being there means there is more potential to score points. I think the complaint that Nick has that I'm starting to kind of also sympathize with is the direction that it splits, especially on layout 1, is a massive fucking deal. To be another pre-game roll-off determination, right? Like if you're playing shooting into melee and you get the split direction, you can just put 2 of those midfields in the open and your opponent can never score them. And vice versa. So I think that's just too much of a big deal to be something that's like determined on a table-to-table basis pre-game. They should probably be defined which way it splits, and it should probably be going behind the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I walked around the event. This happened to me, but also I walked around the event. Pretty much everyone I talked to who got like their opponent won the split with a shooting army put it like, hey, Death Alley in the middle. And then if their opponent went second, they lost. Because their opponent shoots them to death every time they try to get primary, and then they walk out and score 16 at the end of the game. Like that this round, so many people just lost to like, oh, I got the bad split and I went first. Like I talked to a bunch of people playing like more melee heavy armies, and they're like, yeah, I lost to that. It's like that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So
It's already hard enough to score points on this primary. With this primary, I think it should just be like the objective goes behind the wall, because I do genuinely feel like hidden supplies help solve the issue.
Yeah,
Right.
It
Having
would.
another objective out there means that you're more likely to get 8s instead of 4s and 4s instead of 0s.
I agree with you. If this was predetermined, then it would be a good mission.
Yeah.
So
Cool. All right, so some food for thought there. Let's jump into the mission itself. Starting off, Lucas is playing into Gladius Marines, kind of the poster child army of the edition, it seems like. Starting off with Lieutenant Titus, who has rules. They're not legends, despite them being found at like warhammercommunity.com/legends. They're not legends rules. Don't be confused.
yeah, dude. You had
he's-
to go to Target to get that guy, dude.
He's got a loan off lieutenant because he's playing Space Marines. He's got Calgar and Gilliman, greedy motherfucker. He's got the heroes of the Imperium. What are they called? Not the heroes of the Imperium. What is this unit called? Company heroes. He's got 5 infiltrators. They are mandatory. Take them. Space Marine players. Warwick. Take infiltrators. 2 squads of 3 outriders. A repulsor. 10 stern guard as well. Man, I do not like this unit, but people keep taking it. 10th and Stern Guard, yeah. So Hammer Strike, which I do like quite a lot, and then a pair of Vindicators and a Calidus Assassin to round things out. I'm excited to hear about these Outriders, Lucas. How'd the game go?
Yeah, Outriders are super cool. I think they are like a genuinely good unit for the first time in forever. Reavers and Outriders and Space Marines. Crazy shit. Yeah, this was a fun game. It's against Justin. So shout out to him. I had a good time. And yeah, similarly, a couple of the units in here, there's some things that I really like. I actually like the Calgar Gilliman combo, just to like, I mean, Calgar is just an auto include, and then including Gilliman just means you get to use every strat whenever you want to all the time, which I think is cool. And he's enough of a standalone piece, especially with that alone op lieutenant, that he can kind of just like survive dick in the wind and then go do some shit. But on the flip side of the coin, those Stern Guard, man, I played into I played into squad of 10 Stern Guard for 2 games now, and that unit, like, yeah, it can sometimes kill the oath target. Cool. Like, anything in Space Marines kills the oath target. If it doesn't kill the oath target, it's dog shit. And really, a good unit should be something that can overkill the oath target and then do well enough into other stuff, like Vindicators, or Calgar. But not Stern Guard. They don't do anything non-oath target. Yeah, that unit is bad. But yeah, pretty fun. I got to see the Outriders really do the thing they do, which is skirmish really well. Being able to like go and do Assault Doctrine for free, charge in, use Honor the Chapter, and like kill some unit on an objective for relatively small investment is pretty cool, and is like really exactly what that unit should do in my mind. And then using those big bases, like a Remnant squad can go screen, which is really cool. I got to see both aspects of that. So Outriders very cool. The Calgar unit just like beeline toward my home field, which was super sick to see. But ended up getting bursted down by the amount of 3 damage that I have in my army. Yeah, it was really fun to see everything go. But again, just like in my round one, it ended up just being not a massive scoring advantage, but like just small secondary advantage for myself, and then the primary advantage as well, mostly because I went second. You'll notice that's a pattern this whole weekend of people wanting to go second. Just being a little too much for Justin to overcome. He made some cool plays to try to like I said, with the Calgary unit, flip into my home field, control my objective that ended up being out in the open. But at the end of the day, like, it was just too much. I was causing too much damage, and I was scoring more of my cards than he was. So yeah, just the amount of material that Orcs can bring to bear is a little too much for Marines right now, in my opinion.
Makes sense to me. Nicely done. Cool. Rocking down. It's finally time for some Eldar. Oh, wait, no, it's old Eldar up against Mr. Olsen Johnson here. We've got the old boys from the Index and some old friends coming back. We've got ourselves a good old-fashioned Autarch Wayleaper with the Phoenix Gem. We've got the Avatar of Cain. We've got a Death Jester with Fate's Messenger, because of course you do. A pair of Farseers on foot and a Farseer Skyrunner. Lots of Farseers to go around. Fuegan, 5 Void Weavers. Oh, the Corsairs. Yeah, of course. Not the Harlequin boat.
A squad of Corsairs. He does not get 550-point tanks in here.
I was very confused. 10 Guardian Defenders, 10 Storm Guardians, so a little bit of Sticky and a little bit of Fate dice. 2 squads of 2 Skyweavers, 5 Striking Scorpions, and a Wraith Knight. And this is just good old-fashioned D-Cannon Wraith Knight?
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah,
Kind of
dude.
scary, actually, for me. This was our boy Jeremiah, dude.
Rock and roll, Jerry.
Yeah, this is our buddy Jeremiah.
Happen.
We haven't played Warhammer in a while, so this was cool to see him. We haven't played a lot of MCP, and I've been kicking his ass in there. So it seems like my time was due. Fate decreed it, dude. Yeah, so this list is not trying to be tricky. This list is 2 Farseers that slap -1 win on the Avatar and the Wraith Knight. And for those who are paying attention, the Avatar and the Wraith Knight are T12, which means my whole army wounds it on 5s, basically. And as soon as -1 a wound rolls up, my whole army wounds it on 6s, which is not great. So what can I do to stop that? Well, he wins the roll-off, so the objectives go to the middle. So I can't hold any primary in the midfield without getting shot by the Wraith Knight, because towering's a cool rule. And I had to go first, so that was super unfortunate. Which means unless I table him, which I'm not, he's scoring like 16 primary at the end of the game. Yeah, so this game was interesting. Let me tell you, trying to pre-measure the Wraith Knight shooting is one of the most annoying things in the world. Because like we're so used to like measuring around corners right now, right? Or like you have to cross this corner to shoot here, sort of thing, to unlock this sight line. The Wraith Knight with towering just touches a piece of terrain and deletes that. So there were like a few times during the game where I'd like put something here and where like that looks pretty safe, and then you go to move it and go, oh, absolutely, actually not safe. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what do I do? I guess my shit's just dead now. Unfortunate for me, Wraith Knight, like with Fate dice, really good at just being like, this thing's a dev wound. Take 2d6 dev wounds on your NDK now. Well, they only have 13 health. Avatar as well, right? Like pretty good at beating up NDKs. So this game was kind of like me trying to get some primary out early. Wraith Knight going, oh, I can actually see your guys you put out there, killing my guys. And then Avatar coming down the middle, me activating my whole army into the Avatar, me not killing the Avatar. Avatar shot some guys. I like put some guys behind walls where the Wraith Knight couldn't see in the midfield. But then it just kind of came down to like, can I roll 4-ups on this turn? Didn't roll any saves. Avatar killed like 2 NDKs, and then I didn't really have enough stuff left. I managed to kill the Avatar and like kill like a bunch of his like trash units, but then the Wraith Knight picks up like the last NDKs, and then it's kind of like, that's it. I don't have enough bodies to stop you from just walking out on all the objectives at this point. Skyweaver is also really good in NDKs, just shooting a bunch of 3 damage haywire. So yeah, I thought about it afterwards because like this is Jeremiah is going to be playing this list at our team's event. So like I was like, okay, is there a world where I can play this just like way slower and just accept the Avatar gets to kind of wander around the midfield and I just like try to move block him and see if I can score more points out of this? And definitely there is. But Also, yeah, it certainly would have helped if I could have held like one objective behind a wall. So yeah, really strong counter to my list. So yeah, don't feel too bad about that. And I gotta say,
Yeah, it
dude,
seems
thank God
like all
old
the
fate dice are
tools.
going away, because that mechanic is infuriating.
Mhm.
So
Got a question here from our boy Menlin. He's asking about scouting your strikes.
I did. And then the striking scorpions behind the wall walked out and took the objective back.
Nice.
Daniel, why is your head so wide, bro? Your head looking like a Minecraft cube, bro.
No, I should have like
Daniel is our friend in real life, to be clear. This is not-
should have in
This is not
retrospect
Bad face.
just sacrificed the strikes to go through the wall and purge the scorpions.
Mhm.
So yeah. So this was just me trying to play it a little too slowly early, getting my guys shot from where I thought they were safe, and then kind of just being like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna try to kill you. And it didn't work. It's because it's full of dogs.
Yeah, that's like a very unique, like, because your army is good at doing damage in a conventional sense, like rerolls, ignore cover, AP good, damage good. But like you run into some like different defensive profile, and like not different, like unique defensive profile that's kind of immune to that kind of traditional damage. And you're just like, well, I guess I lose. It's very challenging, you know.
Yeah.
Those units are also like very weak to mortal wounds, dev wounds, grenade strat, like things like that, tank shock. And you don't have like a ton of access to that kind of stuff. Like your tank shocks are pretty weak, your grenade access is limited.
Yeah, I mean I have grenades, but it's like yeah, I'm not grenading the thing turn 1 behind a wall, you know. On his DZ. If I budgeted my CP better, that's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, now I know, like budget my CP for like grenades at the turn it walks out, grenades at turn 3, you know, tank shock to even get like 1 or 2 mortals through. So this was a little bit of like, I'll admit, you know, a little bit of like me kind of tilting. So, you know, I was just like, this is fucking stupid. Yeah. So not the best performance, but yeah, definitely learned a lot more about how I could beat this list. So
Very cool. Definitely curious to see how something like this could go on a more conventional mission where maybe there's a little bit more parity in primary here, but very cool. All right. And that brings us over to Mr. Sebert here playing against the Kroot Hunting Pack. Let's go. I have several games with this detachment, so I am qualified to speak on it. It's awesome. We've got ourselves an Ethereal, 3 Flesh Shapers, 2 Lone Spears, a singular Trail Shaper, 3 squads of 20 Kroot, 2 squads of 10 Kroot, 2 Hammerheads with Railguns, 10 Far Stalkers, 5 Kroot Hounds, 6 3/3 Rampagers, a pair of Krootoks, a pair of Piranha, and 5 Vespid to round it out. Yeah, so I'm imagining we got one super unit with one of these 20 mans with both characters to go wrestle in the middle. These Lone Spears are going to be a thing. The Rampagers might be able to do some damage, but I assume you ran this over like a freight train? Yeah, this thing doesn't want anything to do with Warhorde.
No,
it was sure.
Evan showed up. He has a beautifully painted army. He's a great painter. And he's just dumping bucket loads of Kroot on the board. And as I'm setting my stuff up, I kept asking, like, do you have any advance in charge? He goes, no. I was like, oh. So I'm going to get the initiation on everything. And so I just spread all my stuff out. I got turn 1. We actually did the mission rule a bit wrong. We randomly determined it, but it ended up being the split where the 2 were in the wide open. Yeah. I just shoved everything up. He moved his stuff forward, and then I wad and picked up basically his whole army. Because it turns out Beast Nagaboys go great into these big bricks of Kroot because lots of attacks, strength 6, you know, with lethals because of Gaz. They just there they went. So we had a great time. We actually ended up talking a lot about Votan because we both play Votan and commiserating about like the detachment for that and wishing, you know, the new detachment had some better judgment token mechanics. But Evan was a great guy. He took it well. We had a good time. But it was, I think we both understood after the Wa turn, or even as the Wa turn was occurring, like what was happening.
Those secondaries.
It was yeah, the Zogrod had like threatened the home objective turn 2 and tagged like both his hammerheads or whatever the big railgun dudes are.
Yeah, hammerheads.
Yeah.
You know it's bad when you can't pull off extend battle lines with 6 objectives on turn 2.
And he has so much OC. Like he
Yeah, he does.
but
By a
he
mile.
couldn't kill
Can't get it
any
there.
of them. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I remember Evan came over and talked to Tanner and I about this after, and we're like, "Damn, you really hate to be an orc-shaped target, dude." Which is like his entire army. So
T3 rats.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kill.
with like a 6-up invuln.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. Nicely done. I'm sure we'll have some better stuff to talk about on day 2, but great job. So end of day 1, Mr. Sebert over here naturally being undefeated, Lukas going down in the mirror, and Nic going down in the Eldar. How are you boys feeling going into day 2 here? What are we trying to get done?
As for myself, I'm a little bummed being 2-1, but this was definitely something I was kind of reflecting on a little bit Saturday, is how good teams has been for my singles, like mental health, for lack of a better word, right? Like losing a game early on and still feeling like there's something to play for, and like not only in terms of the tournament doing as well as it can, but also each individual round, like max your score, deny opponent points, like be ruthless, which has been really great, and it means that, there's something to play for after you lose a game early on, which I really love. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm excited to win some more games on day 2. How about you guys?
For me, kind of same thing. We went into this tournament bringing our teams lists, so I'm excited to get more data. Little annoyed I lost to such a silly skew list, but I'm like, okay, that's a hard counter. There's ways to approach that more patiently to deny more points. Let's go into these next 2 games, see if we can figure out if this is the right army for the team. So, goal set.
I was actually feeling pretty nervous. I'd gone 3-0 a couple times before, but it's a really good field. I was doing a lot of reading up on lists that night to see what potential matchups there might be. But was feeling confident because it's had 3 really good games. Could have easily been 2-1 after that game with Lukas. So I was feeling lucky after that one a little bit, but yeah, positive.
What are you scared of? What are the sharks that you don't want to see coming into day 2 here? What were you nervous about?
Alex Pina's Death Watch. That army would just mow me down. I mean, we might have a little issue popping trucks or something, but probably not. Let's be honest, he's going to mow me down.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other ones? Tom's list, he ended up also going undefeated. His guard list was just really well-rounded. That much armor I played him before. He beat me by 4 points when we did a teams night a while back. So I knew he knew how to play orcs and how to screen really well. So that would have been another kind of heady chess game kind of match. I think those are probably the 2. I'm trying to think of the other undefeateds. I was feeling good into tie because I feel like I know the melee matchup really well. I think those were there's another undefeated, but yeah, those were the 2 big ones.
It was Jeremiah.
Alrighty.
Ty was Chad playing Corn Demons, by the way.
Oh man, Ty. He's
yeah.
Love that guy.
Alrighty. So getting into round 4, and we are definitely tightening up in terms of missions here. We're playing Linchpin, Hammer, and Anvil Stalwarts. Take it back. I didn't see it was Hammer and Anvil. Man, I don't like Hammer and Anvil. Stalwarts is the Chaos Knights mission. The action and shoot for battle line. Ooh, it occurs to me as an AdMech player. That's also the AdMech mission. That'll be fun. Anyway, so let's get right into it here. We got Lukas going up against Solar Spearhead. Is this Tanner or is this just someone else?
This is Mr. Colby.
This is Colby. Oh, my brother. Okay, he's with us right now.
Yeah. Can I talk about this? Because I play.
Please.
All right, dude. So Colby's got a pretty cool Solar Spearhead list, dude. The guy at the top, we're gonna save him for the last. All right, we got a captain on bike. We got 3 Achilles. That's the Spear Dreads. 2x4 prosecutors, that's the sisters. 3 contemptors, those are the stand back up guys with Melt the Fist. A squads of 3 2 bikes. So the 3-man goes with the captain on bike. The 2-man's little bit of a weird choice, Colby. I talked to him. He explained it as they're good at knocking things off of objectives early, where a dread is too slow to get to. and like you don't, or like you might not want to full commit something like that. Not sure if I agree with that. I kind of think like the 3-mans are better if you're going to run bikes at all, but curious to hear more on that. And then 2 squads of 4 Witch Seekers, which are the Scouts, Flamer, Battle Shock Sisters. Last thing he's got, this guy's pretty sick. So this is the Galatus. This is the Shield Dread, Sword and Board. He also gave it the Damage Relic, which is the relic that gives it like +1 attack, I think +1 strength and +1 damage. So that means it's like 9 attacks at damage 4, and it's also -1 a wounded melee. So this is his kind of weird, like, this guy goes to my expansion, and you can't flip him with a melee unit because, like, he's hard to kill, and he beats face back. So yeah. How'd this go?
Yeah, a very cool list. I like that Galatus, honestly, as a more defensive option. All the defensive dreads, I feel like, are kind of the ones you want to lean into. I've never been that impressed with the Achilles personally, but maybe it's because I'm not spamming like big dumb holes. I'm sure into something like Chaos Knights, they'd feel a little bit more scary. But yeah, pretty interesting list. This is very tactical favored, right? Like the one thing Colby's got going here is we're playing on, layout 8. So there's kind of a wall of not impenetrable, but difficult to navigate terrain in the midboard. So really what I need to do is get him out on the other side of the walls so I can unload my damage into him. And unfortunately, with going first, applying some early pressure, getting a bunch of action secondaries out of the way, hopping on all the objectives, Colby's like, I need to come boot you off of this, and then draws like Assassinate, like Storm or something like that. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go try to flip these objectives, and like fails a whole slew of 7 to 8 inch charges after like having a whiff turn in terms of damage, and then I'm like, okay, pick up 5 bikes and 6 dreadnoughts. Like, it was just absolutely brutal. Yeah, just standing in front of tactical. Like, I get why he did it. All of his points were saying, oh, it was engage. Yeah, as his other secondary on turn 1. But his secondaries were saying, hey, go do stuff in the, in the midboard, go interact. And then that immediately bit him in the ass because I tabled him. Yeah. I think Solar can keep this matchup close-ish just by playing very defensively, especially like the board was conducive to that. Like if he just jammed 3 dreadnoughts in his expansion and then otherwise did not move a muscle, I think I can probably get like 14 to 15 points out of this, but it's not a 20-0, right? So, and this is like, one thing that you can lean into if you're playing against tactical, especially in a team setting, is try to keep the game close because their ability to actually like round the corner and initiate the fight is relatively poor. But once you're in front of them and they can just pick their targets, it's over for you. But yeah, it was fun to get to do the damage thing, right? And just like gap blast everything in line of sight. It was very fun. The Flashgate unit got to get some work in. This is another great matchup for the Beast Snagger boys because they could juice to strength 7 to hit the bikers. They're very threatening to dreadnoughts. In addition, they don't like lose effectiveness like while their models take damage because you can get down to like 1 Snagger boy and the war boss, and that unit can still like borderline full health of dreadnought. Whereas, the tank bust is like once you get down to just the sag and 1 tank bust, it's a little bit less reliable to 100 to 0 a dread. So great Beast Snagger boys matchup. And yeah, just full gas, no brakes, table a bitch, and move on. It's fantastic.
Nice. Yeah. I hate this list. I think this is terrible. And I think you can see kind of here why it can really break down with too many of these medium units that aren't Custodes durable and do kind of Custodes damage. This list does not apply the kind of pressure that you want to get done with Solar. And I'm with you there. The Achilles are really weak into things other than holes, and you have the best anti-hole in the game. Play it.
Yeah. This needs like a Caladius or 2 and a Rhino. And I think the easiest place to cut is those 2x2 bikers. I genuinely like the captain with the 3 bikes, even just as a one-off, because with the flyover mortals and the volume of lance damage too, like Solar Spearhead players are constantly complaining about not being able to kill idiots. And then in the same sentence, they'll complain about bikers being terrible. I'm like, connect the dots, Custodes players. I know it's tough for you. You can do it. I believe in you. Like, that's your solution. But the 2x2, they don't have enough volume to solve a problem. The missiles don't reliably kill a hole. Like, I don't think they're there for anything in particular. So
I would counter suggest that the Solar Spearhead solution to small problems is by creating problems. I don't think this is a problem solving army. This is a problem asking army. And doing this with things that are easier to kill than things like Telemons does not make sense to me. But yeah, Venetaria, great idea, Colby. I would definitely recommend that if you want
True.
to keep on this archetype.
yes,
They will solve some small problems really well. Anywho'sville. Nicholas now is getting into a battle of sorcerers. Nick, you are the T-Sons players. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in this in the wild world of wizarding.
This game was really fun. The opponent I played was very high energy, very positive fella. And we walked up, Sunday morning, and we're like, oh, let's go. Lore accurate matchup. Grey Knights versus T-Sons. So he is out here trying to make T-Sons work, and he's doing pretty decent at it. He'd already beaten our buddy Max, and I know Lukas had a game into him at the last tournament where it was like a little sketchy at one point with like his World Leader Terminators versus Magnus. So yep. He is running Exalted Sorcerer on Disc with Lord of Forbidden Lore. He's got 3 Infernal Masters, one with the Super Vortex. He's got Magnus, because you need him. He's got a Lone Opsork with the Crystal. It's a once per game teleport. 4 squads of 5 Rubrics, 1 Mutilith Vortex Beast, a squad of 10 Cultists, and 3 squads of 3 Enlightened, which are the Disc Goats. So this game's interesting. We're playing Hammer and Anvil, which I don't love coming to the midfield, but also he hates coming to the midfield even more than me. So that's great. This is certainly one of those where, since it's linchpin, right, whoever goes second is at a pretty good advantage, especially if someone is unable to assault the other person, which on like layout 8, like we can both play pretty defensively. This is also T-Sun's like famously good secret mission army, right? So if I end up going first and I pressure him off primary, I better be certain to kill his Crystal Squad so it can't do the battle line secret mission, and I better be sure to kill Magnus so he can't do the steal my home field secret mission. The bit of the downside there is if he does go for the secret mission, right, he is giving up the primary round 5. So if I can also keep him locked out of primary for most of the game, he might not even be able to go for the secret mission. So this is one where I end up having to go first. And this is one where I've kind of been like learning over the course of the event, and also my like more games with Grey Knights, is if you're playing Warpbane or Grey Knights in general, you need to be able to put yourself in a position to stage aggressively if you have to go first. You can't just go, oh, I went second, I lost. Certainly there's some matchups where it really sucks to go first in. One coming up next we'll talk about. But this one here doesn't really suck to go first in. I like very aggressively put like stuff on every objective and try to like hide as best as I can. And I also very aggressively move my Purgators up because I know like his double moves and stuff aren't going to be able to reach me. He responds by putting basically Enlightened on the objectives to deny my primary and kind of shuffling up, but he doesn't want to get in Purg range. He's not really able to get any like double move shooting tricks off. The only thing he could do it with is like maybe Magnus, but now Magnus is sitting alone in the middle of the board getting hit by my entire army. Not great. So what ends up happening there is my Purgs end up picking up like all of his Enlightened. My Interceptors managed to fly over his screens and start charging some of his Rubrics in the backfield. Because I know that like T-Sun's like getting your Rubrics, like getting yourself tagged is like super bad because you have no fallback and do anything. And one of the guys I went after was like the Lone Opsork. There's a stratagem in this matchup that T-Sons have access to that is very, very strong. It's 1 CP, 4 Feel No Pain against Psychic, and also turn on my Psychic weapons and a Hazardous. And everything I have is Psychic except for Stormbolters and Flamers. So he uses this quite well to make me not kill his Lone Opsork squad. But at this point, I basically have stuff on every objective. He's not really able to deny my primary. I'm kind of jailing him in pretty well with like NDKs and like Purgs sitting behind walls. There's a moment, I think, turn 3, where he's like, bottom 3, he goes, I'm in a secret mission. I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. And since I have like been wailing on his Crystal Squad pretty hard, I'm like, I think it's the Magnus one. And so Magnus comes out to the midfield. I like shoot everything I can at Magnus, get him down to 5 health and shooting. Then I charge him with 2 NDKs. He pops the 4 Feel No Pain strat. I do 0 damage to Magnus. Both of my guys' brains electrocute. Then Magnus kills both of them. And I'm like, what is happening, dude? This has gone horribly wrong. Then he draws 2 fantastic secondaries. Magnus goes 32 inches, kills the guy, no, taps my home field, which auto sees my like 2 strikes back there or something. Then also flings damage at guys on my other objective, one-shots them. Cool. He clears my other objective with like an indirect, like, thingy or whatever. Cool. Now he's put me on 0 primary round 5, and Magnus is sitting on my home field with 5 health. And I have like 1 NDK and like 10 perks left and 2 strikes. And I'm like, okay, gotta go kill Magnus or I lose the game. And so I fly over there and do, I think, enough damage to Magnus in shooting, and then I throw grenades at him and he dies. But holy shit, for a game that I had under my control, having that one massive flip in the middle of the game was terrifying. So yeah, you can send on over the scorecard. Also for like a game that I had like great primary control, I was drawing like shit secondaries like the entire game, as you can see here. So yeah, and then he ends up drawing quite a few good ones at the very end of the game. But what really came down to was like he got 9 on primary because he secret missioned, and I got 31. But
that's a T-Sun's primary score if I've ever seen one. Holy shit!
Yeah, so very fun game. Looking forward to the rematch with Bryce. So yeah.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, Bryce is a G.
Man.
I played him at the last Guardian tournament. He's really good. I like him.
Yeah. But hey, I'm happy I was able to be aggressive and keep the pressure up. That was a good learning point from this game. But also, oh my god, Nemesis Dread Knight activations are so swingy. I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. How does he? Oh, they both took hazard damage, but like
one took some like damage from an explosion earlier. So like one wasn't at full health, but he like basically killed an 8 wound Dread Knight and like a 4 wound Dread Knight or something.
How many attacks does Magnus have?
7?
He's 6?
7?
Yeah.
I think he's 7.
Jesus.
He punches the low health Dread Knight, which blows up and kills the other one after he punched it. He also did like 9 dev wounds without rerolls. Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
So actually, sorry, I got Magnus to 6 in shooting. The explosion did 1 mortal to Magnus, which mattered because I killed him to the wound on turn 5. We're sitting there and he's like, you got no shooting left. And I'm like, but I do have grenades. And he's like, no. That was it.
A Magnus counter. Yeah, I'm imagining, maybe I missed this while I was downstairs getting a drink, but I'm imagining the Purgators are like world ending in this matchup. Right?
Oh, they're
just,
really good. Yeah.
Slaughtering trash and rubrics.
Yeah, I think each Purg brick picked up one of his Zangor squads turn 2, and then he had no more Zangors. Yep. And then after that, they started shelling rubrics. He did use the Feel No Pain against Psychic very well. Like he was like, I need this rubric squad to live. I'm gonna use it here, and I'll accept that this one dies. So like he kept using it on he kept identifying the correct one to use it on. And the Purgs aren't so good when it's like, all right, you get 3 up saves and 4 Feel No Pains. And I blow like one of my guys' brains out afterward. Like, it's a very funny strat. Another weird thing in this matchup too is he did have a moment where he's like, I'm gonna pick -1 damage on Magnus, and I'm like, that won't work against me because it doesn't work against psychic weapons. And he's like, oh, never mind, I'm gonna do movement. Because I had this come up when I played T-Suns against Grey Knights, and I picked -1 damage, and then my opponent hit me, and I'm like, that's only 5 damage. He's like, no, it's 10, stupid. And I'm like, oh god, what have I done? So yeah. Very weird thing where like these 2 rules that never come up on Magnus now are like super important in this matchup.
Very nice. All right, that sounds like an awesome game. Glad that shook out like it did and we got to hear about it. Sweet. And we then bring up Jon now going into Demons again, but this time in a Blood Legion. I have to imagine that is the name of the new Corn detachment. Lucas, you want to break down this very flashy list?
Yeah, so let's see. This is Blood Legion. It's the new Corn detachment. He's got some non-Corn units in here, though, which is cool. So he's got Bellicor for the 18-inch Lone Op. We've got a Bloodmaster with Blood Maw. I believe that's a Lance Aura. A Bloodthirster with Fury's Gate. Oh, no, that's +3 to charge or something that a deep strike.
Yeah, 6-inch charge, basically.
Yeah, so you get the old Shadows charges on that unit. A Bloodthirster with Fury's Cage. Is that the you take damage and get reroll to hit and wound or something?
Jeez. It's their data sheet is like the mortal wounds afterwards, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
the first data sheet.
I don't know what the Furious Gauge is. Sorry.
I've got it here for you.
Cool.
Each time the bearer is selected to fight, it can use the enhancement. If it does, the bearer suffers D3 plus 1 mortal wounds until the end of the phase. You can reroll hit and wound.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, that's funny.
I do remember that.
So boy likes punching. 2 Red Masters, Skull Taker, the GOAT, by the way. 2 squads of 10 Bloodletters, 2 squads of 3 Nurglings, 10 Plague Bears because they're just good as hell. 6 Crushers, 2 squads of 5 Fleshhounds, and 5 Seekers. I'm happy to see not Blood Crusher spam because I feel like that is a greedy way to play Blood Legion. And really, this is leaning very heavily on the Red Master plus Bloodletter combos, which is really the strength of Khorne in general. Like those units just punch up and actually have OC, which is cool. So how did this go, John?
It's good against Ty. I'm pretty sure he was the one who won best overall. So congrats to him. He's great guy. Hammer and Anvil, he went first, which we both really wanted to go second. So he kind of came up and staged. I had transports, which I knew were going to be kind of the X factor because he didn't have any shooting really. So I basically just kind of made a wall of trucks and then used my battle wagon as sacrificial. He staged turn 1. I kind of counter staged, put Zodgrod on my expansion, and so I could maybe threaten that long range play onto his home objective if it worked out. Tuck the flash kit safely on the side because I wanted. This was layout 8. I think so. The one with the 4 in the middle.
Layout 8.
So basically, I was able to use those little pieces of terrain in the middle with the trucks to kind of plug the holes. So it was really made sure his Blood Crushers weren't going to get through and get into Gads, get into some of my heavy hitters. And then it was just, at that point, just kind of a waiting game to see when he committed and then my counterattack. I was excited to see the Breaka boys really get a shine here going into the Blood Thirster with their 4-up anti-monster, flat 3 damage. Just put a lot of wounds on him. Though he did the 6-inch blood surge or potential blood surge he can do on all of his Khorne units. What definitely had me seeing the numbers, trying to make sure I wasn't stepping into something and losing like a key charge or losing a unit early. But he had a lot of trash, which I thought he used really effectively. I think the key play that we both kind of identified was turn 2. He left kind of his back corner open. He didn't have any units back there. I was able to deep strike some Storm Boys in for one of my secondaries and to also make sure he couldn't bring in any units basically on that side to charge me, or he's just hitting Storm Boys, which basically put the entire theater of combat right in front of his expansion. And that's where I just walled off with trucks. So I was able to dictate where the fight occurred. I lost all my transports on his go turn, and then I clapped back and took out all of his big damage dealers. So it's just being cunning, trying to be as cunning as possible.
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah,
what do you
messed up there, but that's panned out.
Yeah, for sure. What do you make of this Khorne detachment? I feel like I've heard a lot of talk about it, but I haven't seen anyone actually putting it on the table. How did it feel to you?
Yeah, the synergies are there. The Ren Master being able to point at something, and then the Bloodletters then getting like +1 strength, +1 AP against those. Like against Orcs, it's not as big a deal because I'm all one wound idiots. But I could see against like Marines, against some of the tougher stuff that they'll just chew right through. It's got enough counterpunch with the Bloodthirster, and then the Bloodthirster has that 6-inch aura where it counts as in the shadow. So you can rapid ingress or bring dudes in close to him, assuming you could fit. It's definitely got some teeth, but you can work around its tricks if you're, willing to sacrifice units. Basically, if you have enough chaff, I do think you can have play into this thing.
Cool.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Playing Orcs and Demons is you're playing the same game, but you have like 8 trash units and they have 1.
Exactly right.
Which is just like the disparity there is massive, and I think the secondary points in this game really reflect that situation.
Yeah.
Cool beans. All right. That'll bring us to round 5, the final round of the event, if I'm not mistaken. We're playing Take and Hold Crucible Battle, Raise Banners. Good old-fashioned Warhammer on layout 2.
Lucas's
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah. Let me take a quick look at that over here. Yeah, okay. Cool. So this is the one with the weird staging middle ruins here. Yeah, we'll hear about how this goes. We've got, oh my gosh, it happened again, and I again wasn't ready for it. Oh, it's time for another team kill. We've got Lukas and Nic playing against one another on round 5, Tactical versus Grey Knights. You guys have heard about the lists. How'd this game go, boys?
Well, it wouldn't be a tournament if it wasn't Lukas and I pairing round 5, you know?
Yep. So true.
The last tournament we played in together, it was RTT round 5. I got to play Gladius Fights First against World Eaters. That was a hard counter against him. This time he gets to play Tactical against NDK Spam. Pretty hard counter against me.
True.
At least for me, I'll kind of walk through my mad talks, like thoughts of us, and then you can go through yours. He has a lot of shooting I have to respect, right? With the Sags and the Bustas. They don't necessarily one-shot an NDK, but they can. And I also, he's not going to like WA turn 1, but like Beast Snagaboys plus Beast Boss during the WA, like with +1 to strength, will probably kill an NDK 100% of the time, just because like the dev wounds from the Beast Boss going through are like, you know, too much. And he's got 2 squads of those, and then Breakas, he's got 2 squads of those, which are just another. There's a lot of swinginess, but it's like any 2 things in his army can pick up like 1 thing in mine, so I need to be careful. The other thing too is since it's layout 2, what we talked about, this has like kind of weird staging. And for me, it's like one of those where I know if I go first, it's going to be very tough for me to score points because take and hold, right? Lukas is going to get bottom turn primary. He's going to get 15. I'm not going to do enough damage to kill all his trash. So I need to stage aggressively if I go first. But like if Lukas is smart, which he is, he's not going to let me see anything to shoot turn 1 unless he keeps playing really aggro. But I don't think he has to. So I need to stage aggressively in case I'm forced to go first, but it's hard to do so because the NDKs are on these oval bases. So there's a lot of like, this looks kind of safe. Oh no, that like edge of that oval allows Lukas to get this cross-court shooting lane. And so I'm not able to quite really do that as much as I'd like to. And even if I do go first, it's like, where do I step out into the midfield where I'm not just getting lit up by like Busta Sags or like, you know, the reroll hits Sag. Like, it seems kind of silly for me to stage aggressively to like lose 1 to 2 NDKs and then try to win the game from there. I don't really think that's a recipe to success either. So that was kind of the tough part I was going into there. Lukas, you want to talk about how you were approaching it?
Yeah, this is definitely a weird board for this mission. I feel like we're both shooting heavy enough that the fact that the expansion's out in the open isn't like the biggest deal in the world, but it's definitely going to make both of us holding midfield primary difficult, at least in the mid game until the dust is settled. Yeah, like Nic said, you know, we're kind of in this awkward situation of the fact of the matter is that a tank Busta Sag squad can kill an NDK, but I always have to assume that it doesn't, and he always has to assume that it does. So we're both kind of playing opposite ends of the coin there. But the great news is, like you said, I've got multiple melee units to follow up, right? And they aren't massive massive commitment like the breakable units. These units of Snagus can go in and like half the unit can pick up a spare where the tank bust has failed, and then the other half the unit can get started on a second Dread Knight. And having that kind of modularity of how I engage is why I like the Snagus so much. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. I'm really trying to leverage my quantity of units here so I can score as many points as possible. And then, you know, every unit that I kill, even if it's a trade down in terms of points, every time I remove a Grey Knight unit, like his ability to score secondary cards just goes down so much. So that's really what I'm trying to leverage here. It'll be an interesting game. I haven't played this one yet.
Yeah. So how it shakes up is I unfortunately have to go first. I kind of stage aggressively as much as I can without getting like hit back super hard. I also, I think, instantly draw like, what was it, like overwhelming bring it down or some shit.
We can look at the card.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I instantly drew overwhelming marked for death, and I recycle into no prisoners. And I'm like, wow, what a great draw going first, dude. Like if I drew that like turn 2, cool. That would have been great. So that's kind of the nature of this game. Is I'm at a primary disadvantage. I'm trying hard to like force Lukas to come flip my home, so then I can hopefully like kill some stuff and then come out to the midfield and like flip him off of the midfield, and maybe use like the cross court from my expansion to his expansion to like pressure his expansion primary. And it's like I keep drawing duds after duds. Like what Lukas was saying with the Space Marines matchup, if I draw like any action secondary, like turn 2 or 3, that's just like a 0. I don't have the bodies or the ability to give up a shooting activation to score 3 points. And the shooting activation gives Lukas like 13 points, So that's just kind of the nature of the game. You can speak on it a little bit more, but like I was trying to aggressively cycle secondaries. That is a benefit of Warpbane. It doesn't really need CP to do anything. Like you're just kind of CP rerolling saves and charges here and there. Other than that, you can aggressively cycle secondaries, and if you keep drawing duds, cool, you get your CP back. But yeah, that was kind of the out I was going for, and yeah, you could talk more about your thought process on it, Lukas.
Yeah, I mean the secondary situation was really rough. Honestly, you kept pace on primary pretty well. Aside from that one like interceptor mistake on positioning on turn 1, and that was just like a lack of information, really. Like you probably could have gotten 10-5, 10-10. And then you're only down 10 points. But like you said, you're basically fishing for good cards. You cycled what? A card on turn 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Not turn 2. I kept prisoners because I was like, I know I'm going to get a 5 on this turn 2 if you play the game.
Okay.
But I cycled turn 1, turn 3, and turn 4.
And it paid off once, I guess. Drawing No Man's Land on turn 3.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's just kind of you try to see as many cards as you can, right?
I did draw Bring It Down turn 3 after killing all of your trucks turn 2.
Yeah, it was a bummer
to see it.
But I suppose
there was one
in comparison to the wall of points that the Orks are scoring on secondaries, it's kind of rough. I don't think either of our go turns really achieved what we wanted them to, right? Like you kind of went in and killed a bunch of cars, which actually was kind of a big deal. And then my clapback, I think, killed 2 Dread Knights.
Yeah, I saw my out. I saw my out as kind of what we were just talking about, where any one thing in your army could kill an NDK. But I have to assume it does. You have to assume it doesn't. And I was like, if I want to win this game, have to assume it doesn't. So I'm going to run at you, demech you, try to kill as much as I can inside with Purgators. If I like demech you with like efficiently, then we'll like hopefully live through the clapback and see what happens. And I had a little bit of moment like, what you're saying, where you did kind of underkill the NDKs, but those Snaggas, dude, the Snaggas flipping the primary and just being so sticky. Like elite armies aren't that great at killing like squads of 10 decently tough guys.
Yeah, because like I kill a Grandmaster or I kill an NDK and hug a Grandmaster. You can't afford to not shoot that guy, so he has to just sit there and shoot those Snaggas, kills like half the squad, and then I hit you in my turn, 1 CP fallback, shoot and charge. Like,
yep,
it's kind of rough. That's very rough. This is one matchup where the Snaggas just put in a ton of work. So yeah, we both had some cool plays. I mean, I liked your idea of demeching me. I think that's really powerful. It's one of the things I try to stress to people playing against tactical is it's fundamentally a truck shenanigan detachment, in my opinion, with all the BS you can do with firing deck and disembarks and stuff. So if you can demech the tactical, especially early, like he came in on turn 2 and killed 3 trucks, easily could have been 4. If he got that 4th, it would have been a huge deal. So definitely well done there. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I used my flash gets very early and aggressively this game. Any 2-up armor matchup is one where you just like try to get whatever value you can out of the gits because they're not great. The good news is they still have a ton of volume. So like if the opponent is low toughness, like a squad of Grey Knights, right? Like they're taking 2-ups, but you're passing them like 25 saves before the sag. So you're probably still killing a squad of 5 guys. And that's totally fine trade, losing the gits for a squad of 5 Grey Knights, in my opinion. So yeah, interesting game overall, but just like in the Space Marines matchup, like the Orks are just scoring every point and the Marines kind of struggle to keep pace.
Yeah. We can talk about takeaways right now, or we could wait till after Jon's game.
So I think we should wait to the very end.
Cool. Because yeah, I do have some interesting kind of overarching thoughts on all that.
Yeah, we got one more game. Let's
Alrighty.
finish up the tournament.
Let's
go, dude.
see the finals. It is Mr. Sebert versus Eldar. Jeremiah strikes back. You've heard this list before. It's got a Wraith Knight. It's got an Avatar. And John does not have quite as many tanks to be afraid of those things. How'd this game go, John?
Went well. It was odd. There were 3 undefeateds kind of going into this final round. There was the what do you call it, Death Watch, the Imperial Guard, myself, and then it was like, what's going to happen here with the pairings? I got paired down into the Jeremiah here. The other 2 played off for the other one. This list, I knew I just needed to pressure Eldar. Elves don't like getting hit in the face. But I actually think I misplayed. I went first, and I kind of was a little cagey. I was like, all right, I'll go for a turn 2 or turn 3 here. And I thought I could hide from that Wraith Knight, as like Nick was identifying. The shooting eagles are just so bizarre with being able to touch and train. So it like snuck out. It's able to see my battle wagon, took it down to 1 wound, and I was like, oh, that was a mistake. I should have just shoved everything at you. So rectified my mistake, turn 2, shoved everything. He killed the battle wagon in Overwatch with the Death Jester, who absolutely popped off this game. He was just like crushing 6s, flipping 6s, just gunning down anything he could. So like I think a Beast Naga squad was lost because they get out. I couldn't -1 to wound them because they were battle shocked. But I still was able to connect with his lines. I actually finally I've been waiting for this moment for months, a Kareen moment, where if anyone that doesn't know, there's a strat for the Orcs that when your vehicle explodes, you can spend a CP to move them their full distance through enemy models if you want, and then get everything out. And I had my squad of flash kits just out in the wind, gonna get annihilated if they got out of this truck. So I actually zoomed it over to cover it, dealt a few mortal wounds to my own units to get them out safely. And it left several of his shooting units just with like no good target after that. So it ended up being a huge play, clutch 6 to finally have that. I've been waiting so long for that. The other cool moment was the Break a Boys one shot at the Avatar. Between
Let's go.
I popped the crit 5s on them, and then they were in the Gaz aura, and so they just rolled a bucket of 5s and 6s, which a bunch were lethal, and then they're 4-ups, and I was like, here's a bunch of dice. And he's like, how many wounds each of these? I'm like, 3 down to 2, and he's like, oh crap. And so
Let's go.
that -1 to wound doesn't really care, or my guys don't care about -1 to wound. That was really cool, just because that Avatar has been a bane of my existence. And Votan, every time I see the Avatar, I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? Like, even with the +1 tokens, you're still wounding terribly. And then we skirmished a lot on the flanks but the main event was in the middle. And once that collapsed, he ended up basically tabling me. I think I had Grots and 1 little squad of Beast Naga boys over on objective, but I was able to score pretty much at will. Because I took so much of the board state. So Wraith Knights, hard to hide from. This was one of the big takeaways I had from this.
Very nice, Tim. And the score ends up here. Very solid one. Wow, that is some primary points there, my brother.
Yeah. Just I got my primary. Again, I just should have shoved it and just accepted I was going to take it in the teeth for 1 round.
Nice work, dude.
Oh yeah, and he got the secret mission
insertion. Very nice. Is it the Autark?
Yeah, Autark
thing.
Well, I'm guessing your bomb squigs are also pretty good in this matchup too, right? Just being able to bomb squig Avatar on the way in.
Yeah, I got the tank busters bomb squigs off, and the way that this tournament ruled it is you could launch all your bomb squigs at once. It wasn't 1 per.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so it was like even better for him. I didn't get the Breaker Boys off. Actually, I had a moment where I after they took out the Avatar, they touched some Guardians, and then I had the War Boss touch the Wraith Knight, thinking maybe I could at least force him to spend a CP. Wraith Knight actually stomps pretty good in melee, at least into Orc profiles. So he and Breaker Boys die as soon as after they kill what they're gonna kill. So I lost half the squad to the Wraith Knight's melee, which I was like, oh, whoops. Yeah, they obviously did their job taking out the Avatar.
Very nice. Yeah, the bomb squigs and the Breaker Boys, I feel like they only go off in maybe half of games because they want to be advancing all the time anyway.
Yep.
But neat little thing there. Bullshit ruling, John, but that's not my problem. Not you, John. I'm yelling at the other John.
That wasn't John,
but,
dude. That was our Judge Tanner.
right.
There, dude.
Well, I'll have a talking later on. Anyway, fantastic work. What ends up being the tiebreaker that puts you over here? Is this strength of schedule? Is it battle points? Is it? I assume it's not win path.
I think it was win strength of schedule and battle. I mean, I don't think battle points. That might have been like the second or third tiebreaker, but I think it was strength of schedule.
It's
Strength of schedule.
allegedly strength of schedule. BCP displays it as battle points, but Jon and Tanner said they put it in a strength of schedule, so this just might be a BCP being BCP moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever
Jon
the case
had a
may be.
higher points and higher strength of schedule. So
Yeah, I had
Hell
I think
yeah.
3 of the 4 tiebreakers or whatever it was. So
Nice. Good stuff, man. Well, congratulations on the big W.
Yeah.
Hell of a run here. Just shoving orcs down people's throat. Mad respect for that. We'll move on now to great. We got a little picture here. Wonderful. Congratulations.
That's Alex. Yeah, he won best sportsman.
While playing
nice.
Space Wolves. While playing Space Wolves.
Yeah, that's like a double award.
Absolutely. Sweet. Let's do some closing thoughts here. I know Nick and Lucas, you guys said you had some reflections. We'll save Jon for the end because he's the most exciting. What do you think, Nick? Grey Knights?
Yeah, so the main goal of this event going into it was, are Grey Knights good enough for the team? And I do think that Grey Knights are a strong army. They definitely still have the same issues that they did before that any dropshoot army does have, which is a lot stronger going second than it is going first. But I also think that I know that the secret mission meta, I didn't really play during then, and that was like a very you go second, you kind of auto win with some armies. So the meta still does feel like it is very go second favored, especially on some of these high primary missions, like take and hold, linchpin, which I know it's cut off at 15 now, but that's still 15 points at the end of the game. Even what would that one burden of trust, right? You can get 16, 20 points very easily at the end of the game. And so
Wait, how are you getting 16 or 20 points on burden of trust?
you get 4 points for each objective you control outside your DC. We're playing hidden supplies. Remember? Hidden supplies, there's a bunch of objectives.
So sure, if you hold all 4 objectives and your opponent's home field, you can get 20 points. Sure.
If you hold 3, you get 12, and then you can guard 2 or 3 of them.
You can't guard turn 5 if you go second.
Yeah, you can't.
Oh, okay.
Guarding doesn't finish
like
the end of the game. Yeah, you
That's
can go
yes,
to 12,
yeah.
but
Yeah, you can get
it's mostly just that the primary is suppressed beforehand, so it's really important at the end. But yeah.
Yeah. Especially with the hidden supplies, very easy to just go out and get 12 to 16. Yeah. So, sorry, got interrupted, so I'm just trying to think real quick where my thoughts were going. Yeah, basically the game, right? It seems to really favor going second right now. And so leaning into an army that really wants that even more and is punished even more by going first doesn't seem that great for especially a 5-man teams environment. In 5-man teams, right, you really want armies that are super stable. You want armies that are predictable because every point matters, even so much more than 8-mans, right? The margin of a loss to a tie to a win is quite small. I think for 5-mans to get a win, right, it's 54 is the tiebreaker, or 54 pushes you over at least at this event. So we need an average of 11 points a person. So if I go, all right, this matchup's a tie, and then I go first, and I go, actually, I'm getting a 7, maybe, that's not great in a matrix. And it's also really hard to reflect in the matrix how much your game goes up, win or loss based on if you go first or second. It's just an annoying, unpredictable thing to have to pair around. So yeah, I do think that I was starting to learn how to play more aggressively, and stage more aggressively, if I was forced to go first. But it also just kind of felt across the board, looking at all the games going on at this event, elite armies were having a really tough time putting up good scores or just closing out games into lots of stuff armies. Every time I saw people playing an elite greedier build, if they went first into a lots of stuff army, they either barely won the game or they lost by 10 plus at the end because their opponent went second. And kind of looking at our team was like 3 very elite armies. So we kind of immediately went back to our team and we're like, at least 1 to 2 people need to switch off these armies because they are too unpredictable, especially if their role on the team is to be like solid points floor armies. So that's kind of my closing thoughts on the event. I think Warhammer is in like a pretty good spot bounce wise, like between like detachments and between armies. But I do still think the game kind of has like this, like, I went first, so now I lose problem. There are not that many armies that can like punish people going first. And it could also just be that like we as like a community have, kind of been lulled into playing passively. And so we don't really know what to do if we go first. But yeah, I think if you're an army with lots of stuff that can also punish your opponent going first, you're in a very good spot right now in the meta. Yeah, it's kind of my takeaways of someone coming back to the game.
I'll need some more CSM players. Jeez Louise. There are some things out there that can punish going that can take advantage of going first. It's pretty hard. So it's very interesting to see what that meta looks like, as that is like the exact opposite of the experience that I've been having out and about, where getting staged on really hard by people going first has been a problem. So I'm curious to see how that meta continues to evolve. And best of luck on the in the team front. How about you, Lucas?
I am just to kind of build off that, because I think this follows on very well. I think we should hop to Jon's thoughts on this, because as someone who's playing Warhorde, which is like a very traditional staging, pretty aggressive army, like, were you experiencing this go second phenomenon as well, or were you happy to go first in some of your games?
I preferred going second. I think there's still the advantage in scoring. That said, Orcs with WA love going first, like, as well. Like, I feel like I could move up really aggressively and then to ask my opponent the really difficult question of, do you move up into my WA range? What do you put out into my WA range? And, can I slingshot off that? You have to be really careful with your screens with going into Warhorde as well. Yeah, I still think second is where it's at right now. If I had to pick every single game consistently, it would probably be second.
Yeah, after reflecting on this a little bit, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, there's very few armies that can really take advantage of going first, and I think it's the truly fast ones. Like Warhorde, yeah, can definitely close the distance onto the opponent's expansions, but I mean like charge your opponent on turn 1 unless they're careful type of armies.
No,
which is not Warhorde, and it's like really World Eaters and like CSM if they go first and stage aggro, which is definitely, Bile does a thing, but that detachment has its own pretty clear weaknesses in my mind, and so does Renegade Raiders.
Yep.
Not to say they're bad armies, but I think the number of armies that can really do that like aggressive pressure push is like, it's quickly diminishing, especially as the community becomes more and more acquainted with like methods to stymie aggression. It can be really difficult to like actually create an effective pressure wave. So I'm kind of in the same boat where I think that going second is probably a little too powerful right now.
Yeah,
it's too easy to deny primary. So a lot of games look like 5-5, 5-5, 5-5, 5-15. And it's like, that's a little silly in my mind.
Yeah, it does.
I was certainly hoping to go second in like basically all of my games.
Yeah, it does kind of remind me a lot of the old stranglehold meta of 9th Ed. It does kind of feel like we're still like, get my points, stage, trade. There are still like big pressure waves that a lot of armies are doing, but it does feel very back and forth right now.
Lucas, you're muted.
Going first, like you were saying, the stranglehold meta, right? Like, going first doesn't mean that you get to get the first licks in. It means you get to lose the first resources as you try to hold primary. That's not an advantage. That's a disadvantage, unless you're playing a very particular few armies.
Yeah. And there are sometimes like you go first and you draw like extend containment and you're like, let's go, dude. 11 points my opponent can't stop. There are other times you go first and you draw overwhelming no prisoners and you're like, well, there's 10 points I'm not scoring when the game actually starts.
Yeah, and continue going first. You probably need to cycle one of those immediately.
Yeah,
because you need to score points.
So, yeah. And kind of, I guess, like on top of like the whole alpha thing we were talking about, as people are getting better at like not losing their armies turn 0, I also feel like the game, like the terrain formats are kind of shifting over too, to like try to protect people better in their DZ. It feels like there's a lot less like getting alpha in your DZ. Like, and I know it, depending on the board or not, like, does it have midfield staging, right? Some GW layouts don't. Some WTC layouts, WTC usually has a lot of midfield staging, but sometimes it opens you up to like some shooting from around an angle. So, but yeah, I feel like for the most part, most boards are pretty well designed to be like, if you want to hide all your stuff in your DZ and not get punished turn one, like it's very hard for most armies to do so, outside of like, you know, Mont Ka Tao and like Votan and like, I guess, New Eldar, who can just very aggressively move across the board.
Yeah, it may just be that I've been playing into a lot of Garden Eldar lately, but those armies are a lot scarier going first than they are going second. Yeah,
exactly. Yep, I mean, that one can punish going first. Yep.
And
it's got lots of stuff, so it's great at denying primary. You know.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Alrighty. I got a little bit lost there. Lucas, do you have thoughts on your tactical list where we're going moving forward?
Yeah, just real quick. I almost have no notes about my list. There's some things that I still want to try, but especially with the team event closing in and practice time waning, I think I'm just going to stick with what I know. There's some things like the Mega Mech and the Flash Kit unit that I still need to try out. Haven't tried that yet. But I'm just going to make a couple little tweaks and then basically just play the same list, I'm thinking. It's wicked strong. It can push. It has a points floor. I don't see any reason to change.
Sweet. And Mr. Sebert, where are we feeling here? Are we sticking with the Warhorde, or are we trying out some tactical? Any changes to the Warhorde as it stands currently?
I really like the list. I feel like it's a really good balanced list. It's got just enough shooting to kind of keep you honest. So yeah, I don't think I'll be tweaking it at all for the teams coming up, especially since it has WTC terrain. There'll be 2 GW and 3 WTC for each table set. So that really does benefit having a little bit more melee, I think, going into it. So, I mean, Orcs hit some like really nice little buffs with having autonomy over our WA now being in our command phase, I think was a massive change. And then getting the Breaka Boys and the Tank Bustas for those elite killers. I think those little tweaks just kind of lifted the whole detach or the whole army to a nice place. Not broken, but definitely it's got the tools now it needs.
Very nice. Sweet. That about wraps up our tournament review. We do have a couple of listener questions that we wanted to get through here while we got you, John. First off, from the comments here, Jonathan DeLeo says hi and wants to thank us for starting him on his Tau journey after the Slaanesh episode. Says he's taken that Tau list to a 3-0 career start. Love what y'all do. So glad to hear that, Jonathan. Congratulations. Go keep on making it happen. Yeah. Our first listener question was Sam asking about some big takeaways about Grey Knights. I feel like Nick has covered his thoughts in the army. If you have anything else you want to share on them, Nick, feel free. But I feel like you hit your main points.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Sweet. Next question then comes in from Squire Jeff, who asks, what is the next army to surprise win a GT? Also, shout out to Lucas for some great LVO prep coaching and list design. Shameless plug, if you want to get some coaching and list design help of your own, head over to stat-check.com/coaching, where you can get help from any of the three of us or several other wonderful stat check people. What is the next army to surprise win a GT? What's underrated? What do you guys think?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and check your PayPal. So for the shout out. No, I'm kidding. I think the next army to surprise win a GT is gonna be. Let's see. Oh, I was gonna say Chaos Knights, but I really just do not think so. You know, I think a build and an archetype that's really underrated right now is Death Guard, like the whole spam. I don't know if you guys have seen like the Plague Ironstorm builds with like 12 tanks and Mortarion just rolling dirty.
Freaking Snorefest. God, what a terrible
It's pretty funny, man. 130 point Death Guard Predators they do a lot of damage. So I think what really is so cool about that list is it's good into infantry and good into tanks because of the armor save reduction and bumping down toughness when you get close to them. And then in combination with Boil Blight means that like all of a sudden your anti-infantry predators are like thunderdoming enemy land raiders and stuff. So I think that list has some real sauce. It's very elite, but I think it's pretty good. What about y'all?
I think it's hard. It's hard for me to say something that is surprising right now because the meta is very flat across the board. There's not a lot of things that I would be surprised by winning in GTs in the first place. So it's tricky to say. I think that there's a lot of sauce in demons. I think that Nurgle or Khorne demons could definitely go the distance and catch a lot of people off guard. Those armies need to hit a little bit of a Cinderella path, but like so does everyone these days. So I think there's some sauce there. John, you have a hat to throw in the ring here. Who's going to catch someone off guard?
I mean, I'm curious to see how the Eldari shake out. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going to come out there. The one that I've been noodling on as like a maybe next army to try out is the Hammer of the Emperor, the tank detachment, basically for guard. I think that's got some really cool move tricks. I was talking to Tom about it, and the Imperial Guard player at the tournament, and he was just so excited about it, and I think he got me a little hyped to see that. So I think Bridgehead obviously is very good, but I would love to see, I'm a fan of tanks, so we'll get him out there.
Very cool. I can dig it. Nick, you got anything?
All right, dude. My pick is Votann, dude. Like you said, every army is kind of good right now. But I do think if that army were to win like a decently sized GT, everyone would be like, huh, interesting. It's been a while. Like when I was talking about Votann,
Yeah, no, I agree.
About the possibility to switch to, people were like, I haven't heard much about them in a while. Again, they kind of need like a little bit of a Cinderella path. They don't really have many tricks. They're just pretty honest. There are some armies that are like scary for them, but I do think they have a lot of tools into like almost any army. They've got good mixed arms. They've got good volume of fire, good anti-tank. They also have lots of stuff, which is very important right now, I think. And I kind of like, as we were talking about, I think they are one of the few armies that can, like, you have to respect their alpha, and they also can score a lot of points going second. They can play the primary denial game and the action secondary game, and they get like that extra CP in the middle of the game, so they love cycling secondaries. I think they can put up a lot of good points. Are they going to blow you out every game? Certainly not. Can they certainly like win by 2+ every game? They can, I think. So I think people are sleeping on them a little bit. I think they're just solid army right now. They could certainly win a GT.
I think one change that was huge for Votann was the AOC nerf. It changes their builds, but I think it also props up a lot of their scary matchups. Like Renegade Raiders was terrifying before because of AOC Vindicators and tons of pressure. Marines are scary because of AOC Vindicators. Now, like, they get to AOC your first activation, but you have fucking 4 more AP1 ignores cover damage 2 activations. You just get to kill the Vindicator now. It solves, like, a lot of problems, I feel like.
Like, if they're smart, they'll still AOC the bike activation, but it does mean your, like, random chip shooting afterwards just, like, really hurts them. So.
Absolutely. Nice. Great. Next question comes in here from Sam, who says, y'all have been doing coaching for a little bit now. What has that process been like, and what are some of the biggest things you've each learned? Lucas, I know you've been coaching up the wall over here. You have some thoughts on this?
Yeah. Coaching's been really fun. It's some pretty unique challenges. And I'm having a good time with it overall. I've got a whole set of coaching clients playing a variety of armies. That was the one thing that really surprised. I think that's the thing that surprised me the most, was that people wanted to hear my opinions and get advice on facts that weren't just like orcs. So I've had like 2 or 3 Chaos Knight clients. I've had like 3 or 4 Orc clients. I've got like a CSM client or 2, and then a Imperial Knights client. So like of a whole variety of stuff, which is really fun. Getting to dip my toes into different armies. I have a little bit of like imposter syndrome, especially for the armies that I'm not mega familiar with, just feeling like I'm not qualified to talk about this. So kind of just, it's a little bit of playing it by ear and seeing what works well and what doesn't work well. And just accepting also that it's a journey. Like, I don't have to take, my client doesn't need to succeed 100% of the time. Like that should be our goal, but that doesn't need to be like an immediate product of us working together. Which is like, was challenging for me to accept at first, but I'm having a lot more healthy of a relationship with it now, that I'm not like taking my clients like having good events and then having bad events and then having good events as like as a negative. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I'm having a lot of fun and learning a lot. And I hope my clients are too. I'm enjoying it a lot. How about you guys?
Yeah. I haven't done as much coaching as you do. Not calling someone from Australia like 10 p.m. at night. Crazy guy. Yeah, Lukas is very committed and good source of advice. So glad you're putting yourself out there. Yeah, same thing for me, honestly. Like I love talking about armies that I play a lot. I mean, who doesn't, right? And I feel very confident talking about armies that I have lots of reps with. But when someone has like come to me and been like, I'd like to learn how to play this army, I'm like, I don't really know how to play that. Are you sure? Like I can help you with like general advice, but like I'm not going to be as good as someone who's maybe knows this army like the back of their hand. So it's been pretty cool, like, especially when I get like approached with an army that I don't really know, and I'm like, all right, let's learn through this together, and we kind of go through the learning process together. So that's pretty fun. And I think it's helpful to just kind of like, analyze all the stuff with like a microscope and then kind of, build up our game plan from there. So yeah, I'm a big fan of talking through games with people, talking through like different ideas. So I think it's been really fun. I mean, it's just basically sitting down and talking about Warhammer with one of my friends, except kind of like the end goal is being like, okay, let's like tie all of this into like a neat like thing we can take away from to focus on for next time, or like focus on for your next event. So yeah, I actually going to talk about Votan later today, so I'm very excited.
Hell yeah, dude. Very nice. I got similar feedback. I don't have anything really nice to add to that. I do have a lot of thoughts on this next question here coming in from, oops, I just lost who it's from. It's from Tim the Weird Boy asking, how do you plan to adapt to the soon-to-be released Eldari Codex? Man, this codex is quite something. There's a whole lot of stuff to be working with around here. I'm changing builds pretty heavily with the AdMech that I'm playing to try to make it happen. They have a couple of very distinct weaknesses to try to take advantage of. You really want things that can either kill a Wave Serpent in one activation without anyone shooting it first, which are very few and far between, but if you have them, you are taking them now. You want things that can cross a table and charge a Wave Serpent. That's the second best thing that you can have. AdMech have those. Ruststalkers are in my list for that reason, and mainly that reason, really, to get places. You want a saturation of Overwatch threats if you can get it, because I understand that they turn off Overwatch, and if they're not getting Overwatch, that means that they're not using any of the other abilities, which is really big. And also, they can only have one unit that has that per turn. And then you need things that are going to deny their primary, right? They're very bad at holding primary. Do not let them ever pretend to hold any primary. So you want lots of stuff that can block that off. And then also, some lone ops really wouldn't hurt. Dark Reapers are probably the best unit in the book. I'm staking my claim on that. That unit is insane. And if you can't avoid getting cross-corded, you're going to have a really rough time. So those are some of the adaptations that I would say are necessary there. And then, yeah, those are some of my thoughts for the front end. Nic, Lukas, Jon, you guys have more things to say?
Yeah, I think stressing the kill Wave Serpent plan, like as soon as they're just dudes stranded on foot, like you can't answer them. Like they have all the movement shenanigans, but their ability to like make a reactive move when you get close to them is non-existent, basically. Or, so like once they're there, you get one good activation on them, so you have to make it count, and killing the Wave Serpent early is a great step to making that happen. So yeah. I don't have a ton of reps into them, but that's something I've noticed.
From the few games I've watched as well, being able to like block their disembark spots is pretty good. Think about like where you don't want their like especially like fire dragons, things that are more aggressively going to come at you, right? Like you can like, if you have like a tank on the other side of a wall, like you don't want them popping out into that ruin, shooting you, then fire and fading back. If you can like line that wall with guys, they can't get out in there. Another thing too, I've been thinking about the Wave Serpent reactive move. Doesn't really work turn one to like try to stop it, other than like one-shotting it. But as it gets like the mid game, and if you have like a fast unit that can get around to like its escape position, they can't normal move into engagement range. They can't normal move over you, or like unless they roll really high, right? But it's a Wave Serpent. That thing's huge. So if you have anything that could like stand where the Wave Serpent wants to reactive move away in the mid game, I think that's also very strong. So like fast units that can get around behind them, also quite good. But yeah, it's just going to be reps. Like this army is kind of like T-Suns in that it's going to be really easy to accidentally or purposely gotcha people. So just like, go read what all of their agile maneuvers can do. Don't be surprised. Eldar are very much back to the hold up, I have a response army. So go learn what all those do.
Yeah, not much to add to what you guys have. It seems like the transports are going to be the key. So, but I will make a pitch. If you're an Orc player, Zodgrod, very good at getting out there, tagging freaking wave serpents, and he's pretty effective at cracking them too. So
that might be the only unit in the game that can realistically wrap a wave serpent.
Yep.
I have tried really hard with a lot of things. It is not possible, but 20 dudes, we might get somewhere that go that fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I'm mistaken, like Aspect Host has like no way to fall back and do stuff.
Correct. Literally zero.
So if you just like grab everything on your go turn, the response is going to be limited.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I will mention, kind of like I said with Grey Knights earlier, Eldar are a very easy army to reserve against. They do not have a lot of stuff. They cannot screen you very hard, and they really don't like it when you get in their face. So trying to tax their resources as much as possible by putting some good things in reserve or threatening up your downies, big value into elves.
Yep.
Also, like, if for the love of God, if there were ever an army to stop thinking about like battle number of points spent on units into, trade your units away. Like, throw your whole army away to kill 7 of their units if you have to. You will. You don't think about the points. You need to kill things. It's you cannot afford to let them have resources. Cool. Davin, who has a slightly less optimistic view of the book here, says, following up on Tim's question, how does one deal with elves having infinite movement and casually scoring every card on the deck whenever they feel like? Feels like borderline uninteractive play into new elves when it's impossible to stop fire dragons from disembarking and move 20 wave serpent, leaving an important piece. Does this herald the rise of taking trash cultists to serve as tank traps? I mean, you did kind of answer your question there. I think what Nick said earlier is really important about the move blocking, right? The whole shtick about them getting off and on their side of the wall only works if they're able to get off on your side of the wall. Don't let them. Stand in front of it. In my experience, Eldar are actually not that good at scoring secondaries. Like they should be, but a lot of Eldar players are getting really greedy in their lists because they need a lot of damage. And they really can't afford to have those damage pieces go on one-way trips. So their trash is less numerous than you might think. And if it is, they might fail a damage check, right? It's going to be really hard because the Eldar damage is so explosive to know when. But there are absolutely going to be times and situations where you can full pedal to the metal, just throw yourself at an Eldar army and see what it can do about it if you have the right profiles. Not if you're a bunch of holes. That's not going to work. Fire dragons will eat your lunch. But if you have a couple of other units that can apply heavy pressure without being super vulnerable to fire dragons, you'll get some good work done.
Yeah. I think trash
Summary,
is pretty...
play orcs.
Yeah. I think trash is pretty good into them too, especially the greedier builds we're seeing, right? Like fire dragons, Dark Reapers, even Banshees to an extent aren't that great at killing like bigger units because Banshees went down a number of attacks, right? So they're like more medium infantry killing now.
Yeah, they're 2 attacks a guy.
Yeah. That said, Warp Spiders are still really good at killing trash. They're probably going to be running 10 with Lickies. And also the Osterman, like Dire Avengers unit, is pretty good at killing trash. But like their big, scary anti-tank, lots of damage units are going to have a very hard time like clearing out, like a Zodgrod unit or something like that. So, Accursed Cultists. Pretty good.
Maybe. Sweet. And then our last question from the Patreon here comes from, why do I keep tabbing away from this? Comes from Paul Botello, who says, I know you're competitively focused, but if you haven't heard of the wacky Cauldron of War missions from White Dwarf number 506, I implore you to take a look at 6 open play missions for a 3-player free-for-all or a 4-player free-for-all and teams of 4 or 6. Paul, I will have to check that out. That sounds like a lot of fun on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know that we'll be covering that there, but for anyone looking into that, definitely sounds like good fun.
That was a blast from 2018. Holy cow!
Oh wow!
What?
Is that an 8th edition recommendation?
No, I'm sure. I just haven't thought about it. I haven't heard the words
Oh.
White Dwarf in like forever.
Oh, hilarious! Yeah, for sure.
You know, we're in 9th ed, where they're
like-
handing out detachments in there, like candy, dude.
Oh, true. I
Yeah, absolutely.
Good old Crusher Stampede, dude.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Anywho, sweet. So that's our listener questions. If you, dear listener, would like to ask listener questions, you can either do that by joining us when we record this live. It generally happens on the weekends in the morning Pacific time, but I don't make promises. If you want to be more consistent on that, you can join us over on our Patreon-only Discord to keep the conversation going. Head over to patreon.com/stat-check. Also linked in the description. While you're down there, you should check out some of our wonderful sponsors, such as Wayland Yutani, Saltire and J15 Games, and Red Dragon for any of your 40K and associated needs. It's too late to get Red Dragon stuff before the tariffs go into effect, unfortunately. But you should still check their stuff out. They have some great stat check specific merch, including we have those little metal triangle dice holder things, that people like to use for wound counters, and they also make dice that fit in those that have status conditions, which are really cool. Stat check branded, check it out. And we do offer a free event drop-off if you choose that option at major events that some of us are going to. I know we're offering it at the Dallas GW Open, and I know that it's being offered somewhere else. Check the website. It's really cool. But yeah, those are all really great. Like I said, coaching, you know where to find that. And check out the rest of the shows in the network, including Stat Reps. We did put one up just a week or so ago on TTS of myself playing Final Day GSC into Lucas's Tactical Brigade. Super fun game. Nail biter down to the ending. Go check it out. You'll want to see that. Let us know down in the comments what else you'd like to see from that in the future. Did I miss any plugs? I don't care. Any final thoughts from you guys before we sign off for the week?
Incredible, man. Nah, I'm good.
That's all for me, man.
The Orks are the best.
Wonderful.
Is that a thought, or is that a
Big congrats to John, dude.
True.
I would like to thank John again for coming in.
Yeah, it's great.
Hell
Thank you for having me. I've been watching this show since I first started playing. You guys have taught me a ton. Highly recommend those battle reports that they put on. They're quick, they're easy to digest, and they really get into some nice detail about tactics and why they did things, which honestly is like the biggest learning moments for me. So thank you guys for everything you do. You're great for the community.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
Check
John.
your PayPal as well. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And also, once again, and check out Jon's book under the name J.W. Sebert, The Seed, book one of the Mythstone Saga, available at Amazon, linked in the description below.
Thank you.
We'll have our book club TAC episode in 6 months once Lucas finishes reading or learning to read. Anyway, with that all being said and done, thank you so much for joining us. I've been Tyler, he's been Lucas, he's been Nick, he's been John, and we'll catch you next time, probably for the breakdown of the 5 bands. That's coming up, right? Week or two? Sweet, it's gonna be awesome. We'll see y'all there. Take care, everyone. Ciao.